Kia ora, talofa namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cash. This is our big old podcast coming at you on a Tuesday, and we are here to discuss Aotearoa and Aotearoa sporting matters. That means that the Niche Cash is obviously an Ashes-free zone. We don't care about England, we don't care about Australia. All we care about is Aotearoa, and if we are so deep into loving Aotearoa sport, right now that means we've got to celebrate Jacob Duffy being the best, one of, if not, he's the best New Zealand T20 bowler right now. And he's almost as good as Lockie Ferguson. He's better than Trent Boult. He's better than Daniel Vettori. He's better than Shane Bond. He's better than Ish Sodhi. He's better than Tim Sally. He's better than Michael Bracewell. I mean, crikey Jack, Jacob Duffy is better at T20 bowling for Aotearoa than Jimmy Neesham. That is bloody impressive. So shout out to Jacob Duffy, and I do want to put Jacob Duffy on that pedestal because he is a T20 bowling legend right now. If you want a statistical argument, there are only two bowlers for New Zealand who have taken 20 plus wickets and they are averaging below 19. Lockie Ferguson, Jacob Duffy. Lockie Ferguson has 64 wickets averaging 17. Jacob Duffy has 49 wickets averaging 17.7. And Jacob Duffy just happens to have 31 wickets averaging 15.9 this year. And I want to make that very, very clear because a bit of the Jacob Duffy chat, if there is any Jacob Duffy chat during Blackcaps T20 cricket, it's like, oh, Jacob Duffy, he's bowling all right. He's in good form. Yeah, he's come back into the team and he's doing well. He's really taken this opportunity. That's true. But Jacob Duffy is one of New Zealand's T20 bowling legends right now. It's a lot bigger, grander, more grandiose than just his bowling while he's playing good cricket. Jacob Duffy is a T20 cricketing bowling legend for New Zealand.
Yeah, right. That was abrupt into the sentence. Yeah, I didn't realize he had as many wickets as that either. When you said like most, average, the lowest averages of 20 plus wickets or whatever it was, I was thinking, all right, yeah, okay, Jacob Duffy averaging 17s from 21 wickets or something like that. But he's way past that. And he just he's gotten into the Matt Henry zone in what Matt Henry's been doing in test matches where you just know he's going to take an early wicket. Like in his first spell, there's going to be a wicket. And to do that in test matches is great. Like that's fantastic. Matt Henry is one of the best test bowlers in the world because he can do that. To do that in T20s though, when you might get a 2 over spell, and he always seems to take an early wicket in these ones is crazy stuff. And he's also, he's able to come back in later in the innings and chip away. But especially the new ball stuff that he's doing, just getting New Zealand off to good starts in all of these games. And he was doing it in the ODI series against England as well. So it's not like it's only a T20 thing. He's been spectacular lately. He's been amazing, and long may it continue.
We've also got 8 bowlers who have taken 10 plus wickets this year for the Blackcaps in T20 internationals. Jacob Duffy's the only one below 8 RPO. He took the last wicket in the third T20 against West Indies. So, he's taking wickets up top, but you bring him back, he's doing his job there as well.
Absolutely.
Which is what makes a good all-round T20 bowler. And if he has bowled in 19 innings this year, what do you think the second highest innings bowled is?
It's probably, it might even be Matt Henry at around, I don't know, he's missed this series, so 13, 14?
It is 14. I didn't care for your answer about who, but it was Michael Bracewell. He's bowled
Okay.
in 14 innings.
Wait, it was Michael Bracewell?
Yes, but he's only bowled
Yeah, right.
31 overs. He hasn't. It's innings versus
Yeah, he's not
overs,
getting through his full spells, but he's getting one in most games apparently.
and he's also averaging 45.8 with the ball. But Jacob Duffy has like basically, roughly, literally bowled twice as many overs as anyone else. And that is because he is a T20 bowling legend. So shout out to Jacob Duffy. Another thing, if you what's the word? If you shut out all the noise, the ashes, whatever, and all this other non-Aotearoa sporting matters. And as we do, you get hyper-focused on Aotearoa. You summed up something that I've been thinking about very succinctly. And we've talked around this for a few years now. Not specifically for the Houston Rockets, but it was the same thing we've noticed about Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, and so on. So many Rockets player highlights are actually Steven Adams highlights in disguise. That is the Steven Adams thing in the NBA. We can talk about stats. We can say, plus minus, the rebounds. Yes, he's a great rebounder. He does all this stuff. Screen assists, all this other jibber jabber. But if you watch the highlights for a Steven Adams team, the majority of the time, Steven Adams is doing something in the highlight to set up the highlight. Whether it's a pass, whether it's a ruck. Whatever he's doing, Steven Adams is doing something in the highlight. And it was the same when Steven Adams was playing for the Grizzlies. He was playing alongside Ja Morant. Ja Morant's got all these highlights. Who's in the highlights? Doing something. It's Steven Adams. So congratulations to you. You did a nice job summing up the Steven Adams NBA package, because the stats are cool. And we do reference a few stats here and there. But if you watch the Houston Rockets play basketball, you will see Steven Adams moving bodies, moving the ball, doing something to help his team, and those Rockets highlights feature Steven Adams highlights.
Yeah, almost always. If he's on the floor, it's like the focus usually goes to the other guy. But if you're paying attention to Steven Adams, you can see the things that he's like. I think the quote tweet for the line that you're talking about there was, I think, Amen Thompson, like a driving layup or something like that. And so all the focus is on Amen Thompson. Look at the athleticism. Look at how he gets to the rim. He's top of the key, just the burst of speed. He goes straight past two guys. But if you're watching just before that, rather than seeing just like what's Amen Thompson doing as he bounces the ball at the top of the key, getting ready to go, if you shift your eye just slightly to the side, you see Steven Adams setting a massive screen, bumping a guy off target, and then a second guy coming over, not to guard Amen Thompson, but hanging off of him, also focused on that Steven Adams screen, I guess trying to get a switch or something like that, but the guy couldn't switch because he couldn't run past Steven Adams to get there. He couldn't get around the first screen. So effectively, he takes out two guys. And it's not one of those ones where it's like sometimes, Steven Adams has a reputation for screening. So sometimes if he just drops the shoulder and a guy goes flying, like Patrick Beverley back in the day, that's certainly going to get some focus. This wasn't one of those because he didn't it wasn't a perfect seal. But it was enough. Guys couldn't get around him. They back up. And if Amen Thompson or Ja Morant or Russell Westbrook back in the day, many athletic guards who have played with Steven Adams have had this benefit. If the guy who's supposed to be guarding you is moving backwards and you're running towards the hoop, it's game over. They're never going to catch you at that point. You've already got them beaten. And that's a Steven Adams thing. And well, I don't know. I think with the stats stuff, it's like the stats are cool, but also the story is cool, but also the stats tell the story in this case, because what are the stats we talk about with Steven Adams? It's not his shooting percentages. It's not the amount of 3-pointers that he makes or how many points he scores. It's like offensive rebounds, aka grabbing extra positions for your team, usually so that someone else can score. Sometimes he gets the tip in. Often it's just like kick out to a shooter or back to your point guard and reset the position and start all over again. Screen assists, well, those are so that someone else, like you get a screen assist because someone else got the bucket off of the back of your screen. It's box outs, so that sometimes he can, I mean, he's one of those guys who can box out and grab his own rebound from his own box out, but also Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double playing alongside this guy. You think Steven Adams box outs weren't a major part of that, you know what I mean? Like if your point guard is getting more rebounds than your center, that might be because you have a bad center, or it might be that your center only cares about the team getting the rebound rather than him getting the rebound stat. So he's happy just to take out their best guy and let the point guard come swooping through when he happens to be amazing at doing that stuff. Kevin Durant won an MVP playing alongside Steven Adams. Russell Westbrook won an MVP alongside Steven Adams. Jaren Jackson Jr. won Defensive Player of the Year playing a full season alongside Steven Adams. That's not a coincidence either. Like, I mean, it's easy to say a cliche like he's one of those players who makes other guys better, but in the case of Steven Adams, like there's a long history of this. Like there's full receipts on the ways in which he not only makes other guys better around him, but like makes them among the best players in the league, turns great players into like all NBA players.
I would like to see Steven Adams in a box out competition with like Xavier Willison and Nelson Asafa-Solomona. And then, because obviously if you put like 5 dudes against Steven Adams, okay, Steven Adams might not get the ball, but he might do. I don't know. But I'll go 3, and you can have Nelson Asafa-Solomona, Xavier Willison, and then take your pick, Fisher Harris, Tapane, Leota. And I think Steven Adams is going to get the ball. He's going to box out. He's going to win that contest. In our newsletter yesterday, shout out to the newsletter, nichecase.substack.com. That comes out every Monday evening and Thursday evening. Full of Aotearoa sporting information. There is a free section, there's a paid section, so you can upgrade to a paid Substack subscription and access a bit of bonus content. There's every Thursday has the bonus podcast as well. So you can sign up for free, thenichecase.substack.com, and just have the newsletter right there for you every Monday and Thursday evening. You can support our work and access some bonus stuff as well. And shout out to everyone on Patreon, patreon.com/ELNicheCase. Full newsletters, free section, paid section. They go into Patreon. The bonus podcast every Thursday is part of Patreon as well. That's another great platform to support our work. In the newsletter yesterday, as part of your 20,000 thoughts on the New Zealand A-League Derby, one of your thoughts...
10 thoughts.
Yeah.
Clearly listed at the top of the thing.
Yeah, exaggeration for effect. To showcase the breadth and width of your footballing knowledge. Like, just take the compliment. Crikey, Jack.
That's sure.
I agree and disagree with your thoughts about Sam Cosgrove.
Interesting.
Because, like you, don't really like Sam Cosgrove. But as
I didn't say I didn't like him. I just said
hey,
he was a bastard,
whoa.
which...
Just cool your jets. Let me finish my sentences. You, as you have a habit of doing, as you just did right then, you want to qualify it. He's a bastard. Complimentary. Even with my journalistic integrity hat on, trying to be neutral about both teams, I was getting mad at him. All right, so that was the same feelings I had. Because I've watched Sam Cosgrove play a few games of footy now, and he just pisses me off. Unlike you, I just think Sam Cosgrove is shit. As a neutral footballing, Aotearoa footballing observer, I'm rooting for Wellington Phoenix to show up and show out on their home turf and kind of, yeah, I'd say upset Auckland FC, but then the game flips and then I'm rooting for Auckland FC to hold the fort with 9 players and do their best. Like, I'm riding the neutral wave that I think a lot of Kiwi football fans are, because we don't have, like, sure, Auckland FC versus Wellington, pick one. Sure, Easy E versus Cosgrove, pick one. I'm Easy E, ride or die. Cosgrove is, let's say, Suge Knight. Suge Knight, Suge Knight survived though, so it's not. That's
Yeah,
why,
that's true.
that's why I did pause, because I couldn't think of the best comparison straight away. But I do think there's a lot of Kiwi sports fans who are just straight neutral in this contest, like us. So yes, there might be many sports fans who, like, Cosgrove just pisses them off. But you seem to enjoy his efforts in the niggliness of this contest, and I kind of get where you're coming from. But if that's all you got, like, you just go play rugby. You know, if that is all you can do on a football field, have a crack. Start in Fox Memorial. In fact, you're from England. You're from the north of England, I think. Go try crack the Super League, because Cosgrove is like a footy player. He reminds me of, like, if Chris Wood, it doesn't remind me because this actually hasn't happened, but if Chris Wood was 10 times more out of form than he already is, that's Sam Cosgrove. And this is the one, I try not to get, like, too opinionated on the players and what they're up to. For some reason, as you described, Cosgrove pisses me off, but I also just don't think he's that good at football. And I mean, you can look at like, we talked about it when Auckland FC signed him. This dude doesn't score goals.
Except for one stint in Scotland with Aberdeen, he seemed to be really good there, and just the track record, yeah, not a lot of goals anywhere else. He does have 3 already for Auckland FC, though.
Per his Wikipedia page, he scored 31 goals in 79 games for Aberdeen.
That's all right. That's close to a goal every 2 games. That's a very good strike, especially for Aberdeen. It's not like you're not playing for Celtic there. If that's your Celtic record, you probably want to be closer to, like, 3 goals every 4 games or something. But for Aberdeen, that's all right.
Okay, fair enough. 0 goals in 14 games for Birmingham. 2 goals in 17 games for Shrewsbury Town. 1 goal in 15 games for AFC Wimbledon. 8 goals in 33 games for Plymouth Argyle. Shout out Ben Wayne if he's still there.
No, he's not. And also shout out Max Mata, who wasn't actually, apparently he had, like, a terrible goal scoring record at Shrewsbury Town, and it was like 1 goal less than what Cosgrove got in a similar amount of games. So yeah, therein lies the problem. The stint at Aberdeen was fine.
Whoa.
Nothing else matches that.
4 goals in 51 games for Barnsley. 0 goals in 7 games for Stockport County before he came to Auckland FC. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be nasty. But, and there are a few instances, like when he was on the field, because he did get taken off when Auckland FC got 1 or 2 of their red cards.
Yeah, he got subbed after the first red card for Nando Peinecker to come on.
Like, he had a chance at some point, and he fluffed it. And I feel that's, like, just what Sam Cosgrove is going to do. But if Auckland FC can win games with Sam Cosgrove as their striker, that is, as we saw against Wellington Phoenix, winning with 9 players, it all just comes together and, like, this is Auckland FC. We saw last season, best defense in the league. They're doing all right with a striker who does not score goals, doesn't like his role against the Wellington Phoenix was to be offside. That was his job.
And to bully Lucas Kelly-Hield, apparently. Which at least he picked on the one guy his own size, but also he didn't pick on the one guy his own like age. Or,
Yeah, but maybe
you know.
Lucas Kelly-Hield was his job was to bully Cosgrove.
Yeah, well, he didn't. If that was his job,
Well,
he didn't do it.
Cosgrove, no, he didn't bully Kelly-Hield. He just like, wah, and hit Kelly. Like, that wasn't intentional. So in defense of
Well,
Cosgrove,
that one instant wasn't, but there was definitely a lot of like there was some back and forth there. They were
but
marking each other from
it's a
more
two-way
than
street.
that's yeah, okay, all right.
Who's the biggest dude for the Wellington Phoenix?
Yeah, Lucas Kelly-Hield, of course.
Yeah, so like, if I was any opposition team, I'd be bullying Cosgrove. He's not a bully. To me, he's big for nothing. And
Well, they say that with a lot of bullies, and the give it but can't take it type guys, right? So I guess that is a. I wonder if we'll see that strategy because I think there was enough from this game to kind of hint at that, where it's like maybe you just want to piss off the guy that's trying to piss you off.
you know, he's not gonna score goals.
Well, he scored 2 in that game, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
they were both tap-ins. One of them, I actually am quite annoyed he got credited the second goal because that was Jesse Randall's goal, like top to bottom, with a little bit of an assist from Josh Oluwayemi doing his Andre Onana impersonation by running away from the guy who's running towards goal rather than coming out and trying to, close the angle. But I don't even know if he touched it, and if he did, it looked like he was almost over the line already. I mean, he did touch it. It was just whether he got there before the ball was over the line. But that just feels cruel to take that off Jesse Randall. But they were both, if even still, they were both tap-ins created by Jesse Randall. So it's not like he made those goals.
they were actually created by Cosgrove standing offside and not doing anything.
Yes, but in the first instance, I think that's something Paul Eiffel said before the game, where he's like, you got a big man striker like that against the high line, you kind of got 2 options. It's drop in and flick on to try send the wingers through, or just start offside and then let the wingers overtake you so that you're back onside and then you get the tap-ins when you're unmarked kind of thing. He actually did that kind of perfectly for the first goal, but there were other factors in that goal.
Yeah. So in summary, I don't know.
You hate him, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like Cosgrove. Cosgrove just pissed me off. So it'll be interesting to see how those feelings, open-minded, self-aware. It'll be interesting to see how those feelings progress through the A-League season. But I actually think it's more of a like the giggles about Cosgrove are more a credit to Auckland FC and how they operate as a defensive unit, as a team. And I still prefer Eze because like he can actually like shoot from outside the box. He can, he's got a bit of razzle dazzle, but he's a big body. He's going to niggle you as well, as we've already seen this season. But I brought up Sam Cosgrove being a big for nothing striker who doesn't score goals, but he is scoring goals. That sounds ridiculous, but I remain confident that Sam Cosgrove will not score more than 10 goals this season. Because I don't think he's scored 10 goals in many seasons. 2 of his seasons, he scored more than 10 goals.
Were they both with Aberdeen?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, I think maybe the other way to say it is he going to outscore Ifeanyi Eze, which at this rate, they're actually tied. Like they both scored in this game. I think they both got 3 goals from 4 matches. Feels like, obviously, as long as neither of them get injured, Eze feels like the more reliable scorer. He certainly feels like a player who can score goals in more different ways than what Cosgrove does. I thought Cosgrove was very important to how Auckland FC played in this game, which I thought was very encouraging for his fit, but also it's like, I don't know if that translates. Like, I think the fact that it was a derby game, you know what I mean? Like the extra intensity of the match, the extra kind of emotional investment in the match brings up the level of niggle to a level where Sam Cosgrove becomes quite a very, a very handy soldier in that kind of battle, but you don't get that every week. And other weeks that's just going to look petulant, or it's just going to look out of sync with the rest of his teammates. And I don't think we've seen a lot of that yet. There's probably a way to figure this out, but how many passes do you reckon he's made to Guillermo Mai, who's supposed to be the guy playing off him, right? I didn't even know Mai was playing in that game against the Phoenix, and Lachlan Brook to an extent as well. Like those guys were marginalized, partly because Randall was playing so well on the left. And to be fair, Cosgrove was doing very well at his job as well up front. But it's like you're not linking with your teammates, and that's kind of the thing I need to see from you the most. Is are you nodding that ball down for Mai to get the shot, or are you just trying to hunt goals yourself? Because otherwise, especially listening to him in the aftermatch, and he was talking about, yeah, like I'm a striker. I love the physical stuff. I'm here to score goals and all this. I'm like, I don't know that you are here to score goals though. Because it's just starting to sound like whenever Isaiah Brockington from the Breakers does an interview, and it's like the stuff he says feels out of sync with what I see from him as a player. And in a way, they're kind of the same guy. Sam Cosgrove is the stereotypical lower league English striker. Isaiah Brockington is the stereotypical American import guard basketballer type. There's not parallels between how they play. There's parallels in the way that they are like in their respective sports. They feel like they fit a cliche of import players playing overseas, and I don't know if you've gathered this from what I've said about the Breakers to this point, but I don't think Isaiah Brockington's been very good for the Breakers, and I don't think Cosgrove had been very good for Auckland FC through the first 3 games. Thought he was very good in this game, but as I say, I don't know how well that translates to every other game, but he has scored 3 goals in 4 games, so I guess we gotta, let him ride it out. And if he does start to get those combinations, because that's the thing about Max Mata, who's the guy he's ostensibly replacing there, is that Max Mata is aware that he doesn't have to score the goals. He is an unselfish striker who is looking to flick the ball on and nod it down and hold it up and lay it off and do all those kind of things. So occupy the big centre back from the other team so that someone like Mike can run into space around that. I don't know that Cosgrove is doing that stuff yet, and that is what I would prefer to see from him, whether he's scoring goals or not. So we'll see. We'll see how that follows in future weeks. He at least won't be short on confidence after this, but he also now maybe has a target on his back.
I'm questioning my whole footballing know-how because my thoughts on Cosgrove are completely different. I don't think he's like I'm not scared of his physicality. I'm not scared of his goal scoring. I don't even know if he'll like finish the season as the best striker at Auckland FC. I just don't think Cosgrove is that good. But I know for a fact, and I agree. Like obviously your Brockington stuff is on point. I would say to me, Cosgrove kind of like you could take your pick. Baker, Brockington, it's like which.
I kind of like Baker.
Oh no, he's trash.
I just don't know where he fits into the team. In fact, to be honest, the guy who's pissing me off the most after last weekend, I don't know if we'd bother with Breakers today or not, maybe. But it's Parker Jackson Cartwright. Yeah, we'll save that then because PJC is the guy who's annoying me the most at the moment.
I do just want to get another football thing out because I brought up Cosgrove being a big for nothing striker who I don't think is that scary as far as a niggle merchant. I'm not scared about his goal scoring at all. To hammer home the point again, 2022, 2023, 33 games, 8 goals. 2023, 2024, 32 goals, 32 games, 3 goals before moving. Last season with Barnsley, 19 games, 1 goal. Joe Bell, I am more confident that I'm going to see a banger from Joe Bell every season than I am like Cosgrove is going to be really good in the A-League. And I don't know if Cosgrove has ever scored a goal outside the box, nor should he.
Chris Wood's got a couple, so if he's trying to reach the best possible version of that type of player, then he's going to have to add that to his arsenal because Woodsy's done it a couple times. Not a lot, but it is a couple Premier League goals he's scored from outside.
Shout out. Joe Bell only scores goals outside the box. Right,
Yeah.
so it's obviously positional. Cosgrove, he should only score his goals inside the box. Joe Bell, as a midfielder, he's only going to score his goals outside the box. But when you're scoring the goals outside the box and your name is Joe Bell, what's his middle name? You know his middle name?
Zen.
Zen. He's Joe Zen.
He's
And
one of the Zen brothers.
and Nando Zen came on off the bench to be part of that staunch Auckland defense. I've never seen Joe Bell score a goal inside the box. And if it was like gets the ball, steps inside the box, whips it in. But Joe Bell, he scored another banger this weekend. On it, like, try picking a favorite Kiwi footballer out of Joe Bell, Elijah Just, Marco Stamanic, all those dudes. Josien Bell is going to be near the top of the list. And a lot of Kiwis have no idea who he is, but he is super duper classy, and all the highlights you make of Joe Bell scoring goals are bangers from outside the box.
Those are the only goals he scores. He's he must have at least three of them this season, but I think those might be the only three goals that he's got. And he does his best chances tend to be like when someone else because sometimes he takes corner kicks, but sometimes someone else takes the corner kicks, and he's just hovering around the the D at the top of the penalty area for the seconds, for the half cleared header that falls his way, and he's just running on control volley. I think that's the scenario that this goal on the weekend came from. Certainly, it was the position this goal came from. And yeah, just chest it down, let it drop in front of him, and then swing a boot through it and put it the top corner. That's awesome. Love the way that he does that. He has definitely got one of the best goals to bangers ratio. There's not many other Kiwi footballers that there's plenty of other Kiwi footballers that can score goals like that, and even who have scored goals like that, but there's not a lot that only score goals like that. I think Maya Han might be close to that, though. She scored a goal on the weekend for Victoria Berlin in their one in the German second tier, and it was a bit more of a chip, curling it over the keeper towards the far post, but it was from a similar spot, and it was from a similar situation of a ball half cleared out to a midfielder edge of the box. Remember the winner she scored against Costa Rica earlier on in the year as well for the Football Ferns, so she might have a similar trait. But yeah, this Joe Bell story also goes deeper than that, because first of all, there's his goals. Second of all, there's his kiwi fruit penchant. Third of all, there's the fact that he's just a key player for a team in Norway that is pretty good, where he's the vice captain. So whenever the fellow who normally captains them, as he does quite often, because he's a fellow who gets a few suspensions and injuries along the way, Bella's captained Viking many times this season. But then, most valuable of all, and what this goal also contributed to, was a pretty handy win on the weekend. They might win the Norwegian title. When he went back there after he was a star player there a few years ago, he goes for the supposedly the move upwards to Brøndby in Denmark. That doesn't really work for him. He returns to the club beforehand. I think people could maybe see that as tail between your legs, gone back to where it started. You didn't make the step up, but actually he kind of has made the step up, because Viking have gotten so much better since he's gone back there. And the first year was a half year that he was there. They were in a title race. They just didn't have the quality to sustain it. They fell away at the end, lost a bunch of games towards the last couple of months, and tumbled down the table a little bit. The second year, so 2024, that he went back there, they were better. They were more consistent, but they drew a lot of games. They didn't quite have the extra level to turn those into victories. And so I think they finished third, which was good enough to qualify for some European competition. This year, they just started off as a crazy team, where it was almost I don't think anyone really expected this of them. They were conceding a lot of goals, but they were scoring even more goals. So they just kept winning these games 3-2, 4-3. And I think they've tightened up the defense since then. And I think a big part of that is the fact that Joe Bell is maybe being a little bit less adventurous going forward. So we're seeing Yeah, he had a few goals and assists at the start of the season, which really have mostly dried up since then until this banger on the weekend. And I think a lot of that is just like he's seen, wait, we're a good team. We're a very good like transitional attacks, getting runners out, win the ball, and then go straight on the like, get it to the wingers early, making quick passes, getting in behind the defense. Very good from set pieces as well. They've scored a lot of goals that way. And I think he's just sort of evolved into a role where it's like, I don't need to run forward and join that. I need to give them a shield so that they have the ability to take risks. And if they lose the ball, I'm here to sweep across and break up the counter attack and not let that happen, which he does extremely well. Gets a bunch of touches on the ball, just like knocking it around, making sure it keeps moving, getting it to the right guys as quickly as he can, or slowing it down if that's what the situation demands. And they've found themselves in this situation where they just started off. It was a bit of a like, man, there's no way they can sustain this, right? But they kept winning. They've started winning in different ways. They're a bit better at grinding out results, although they still have this tendency of conceding first and then getting the comeback victories. You know, score equalize before halftime, score just afterwards, hang on for that 2-1 or whatever, or maybe score a runaway and make it 3. And up until very recently, that was leaving them sort of like just a little bit behind Bodo Glimt, who are the defending champions, who are playing Champions League football this season. And it was a bit like they needed Bodo Glimt to drop some points in order for Viking to actually like have control of their title race. And it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening. And then finally, 2 weeks ago, it did happen with Bodo Glimt. Just the amount of games playing midweek and weekend, midweek and weekend, and there's Champions League intensity during the midweeks as well. So you can't really take that easy. Eventually, finally, they did slip up a couple weeks ago, which left Viking in a situation where if they won their last 4 or 5 games, whatever it was at that stage, they would be champions of Norway for, I think they have won it before, but not for a very, very long time. Like not in Joe Bell's lifetime, certainly. And so far, so good. He scored in that win on the weekend. They're now 2 further victories away from being champions of Norway. And if Joe Bell's leading a team to an unlikely championship in Norway, I mean, unlikely to win the championship, they're expected to be a team up around challenging for Europe because that's where they've been the last couple of years since he's been there. But like this is an incredible story. If they see that through and actually get not promoted, we've had a couple of nice promotions lately. If they see that through and actually win the Norwegian Elite Serien title, that is crazy stuff. Even more crazy for the fact that Joe Bell will have been certainly among their 2 best players, if not their very best player for the season.
I need to get some mindfulness in my veins to just heal my hatred and disgust of a footballing striker who's big for nothing, doesn't really score goals. So can we get some mindfulness?
I can.
We actually did it because Joe Zen Bell gave me a lot of zen, gave me a lot of positivity. So shout out to the Zen brothers, still one of the craziest Kiwi sports things. 2 all whites footballers have the middle name Zen, no big deal.
And Nando Zen Pinecker bringing a lot of calmness to that Auckland FC defense when they're defending with 9 men. Socrates. Socrates is good for some mindfulness. So here is some mindfulness from Socrates. The secret of happiness, you see, is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less.
If we are entering the mind of Socrates, obviously we've got to shout out the Bombatomically Socrates philosophies and hypotheses. And this hypothesis, you're saying enjoy less happiness?
Let me check the exact wording here. The secret of happiness, not seeking more, but developing the capacity to enjoy less. So not enjoying less happiness, but being happier for fewer things, maybe, or be requiring less to make you happy.
Right. Yeah, that sounds better because I don't want to enjoy my happiness any less than what I already try to do.
But you will have more happiness if your capacity for happiness is lower, right? Like you'll hit that benchmark more often and be a happier person rather than striving for like it's got to be perfect. It's got to be all or nothing. I have to have everything here or else I'm disappointed.
perfectionism is kind of cool these days. Like, such a perfectionist. Like, it's just like it's just got to be the exact way I want it and all this stuff. And it's like maybe being
Yeah.
happy is just cooler. Maybe it's just better to be happy.
Well, I think so. It's
And
better
I'd
than
also like
your 24/7 grind, you know, it's maybe just like smile.
the enjoying less. Like we did get into the wording of that, but you can also just enjoy less things. That's a bit too tricky. That's a bit too complicated for me.
Well, yeah, like shed away the focus on the things that make you happiest, I guess. If you
Yes.
shred away all the extra stuff and then you're just left with like, I know I'm going to enjoy, I don't know, a cup of tea on the balcony at sunset or something like that, you know, the very simple things where it's like this is a guaranteed boost in whatever that thing is that makes you happy. I forget what the brain mechanism, whatever they call it, but yeah, clearly not a scientist, but settle like well, it's not even settling. It's just like it's just an understanding of what works for you, right?
Yeah, sort of, but we need to talk about some sport, and there was
Yeah,
some
well,
sports stuff
that
that
that makes me
really,
happy talking
really,
about
really,
sports.
really, really made me happy, and that was watching the Kiwis play rugby league again. Because against Tonga, I did feel like that was one of the best, most enjoyable Kiwis games I've watched, and it was pretty similar against Samoa. I will say completely different feelings about the Kiwi Ferns. The Kiwi Ferns were less enjoyable to watch when they're playing Australia. It's just it's yeah, just their defense isn't good enough to absorb clunky attack, and they changed the halves combination for the second game against Australia, and it's all far less enjoyable for the Kiwi Ferns. We've now had two pretty disappointing years of games against Australia after beating Australia in 2023. So I do feel like the Kiwi Ferns haven't made much progress in the last few years under coach Ricky Henry. And I don't know if the players are like, if the Kiwi Ferns players are playing their best footy for the Kiwi Ferns, if the Kiwi Ferns players are getting better in the Kiwi Ferns environment. And that is a little bit of an issue, but all rugby league things for Aotearoa are very positive, just simply because the quantity and quality of depth continues to go through the roof every year. So if the players aren't, if the coach isn't getting the best out of the players for the Kiwi Ferns, well, there's going to be more coaching candidates. There's going to be more players who can step in and play their best footy for the Kiwi Ferns. So I'm not too negative about the Kiwi Ferns pathway, because Aotearoa's rugby league depth is increasing rapidly. And it's not just like the men's side of things. Yes, it's more quantity. You just got more rugby league players from Aotearoa, or more rugby league players from Australia who want to represent Aotearoa. So then you just got more numbers and more high quality depth. Kiwi Ferns, you've got the numbers, but you've also got the quality of new players, because players are coming from high performance rugby union and joining the Kiwi Ferns. So yes, you're adding another player to the Kiwi Ferns player pool, but that player has played high performance rugby football for at least 5 years. And that's going to be very useful for the Kiwi Ferns. So everything I'm saying about the Kiwis is kind of the opposite, but the depth and the growing depth is the same. And that is very important when we're talking about Pacific Championship Rugby League. There's this, like, yes, you can do your fantasies about like full strength teams, and if we get this player, we're going to be awesome. If we get that player, we're going to be awesome. I understand Like I can't say don't fantasize about what your team, like, of course that's a sports thing, is dreaming of what could happen and what is possible. Pacific Championship Rugby League success is all about depth, because very rarely, I think, you will have a full strength team for the Pacific Championships. Like, yes, this was the most fun I've had watching the Kiwis play rugby league, but was it the best? And yes, I think it's the best Kiwis team I've watched, but is it the best possible Kiwis team right now? No, because one of the best halfbacks in the world was not playing. And if the Pacific Championship and International Rugby League is going to be played at this time of the year, which is fine, we have to understand that these teams will never really be at full strength. So you can say, like, oh yeah, Samoa's going to get Stephen Crichton back next year. Well, they might get Crichton back, but someone else might be injured. Right? Someone else might be dipping off to rugby union. NRL footy, these dudes are getting smashed for like 24 rounds, and then the best players are playing finals footy. Dudes are going to be unavailable for the Pacific Championship. Like, they're not playing baseball here where you can play 180 games in a season and it's all good. These dudes are playing intense NRL rugby league. They're getting smashed every weekend. They're going to get injured. They're going to have head knocks. They're going to be suspended because it's rugby league. Like, someone's going to get suspended. So you're never really, I don't think you're going to be at full strength. But it's how you, and the Kiwis throughout the Pacific Championship, their depth was tested even further because you lose Ronaldo Mulitalo to injury. New Zealand Rugby League told us that Asafa Solomona and Sebastian Kris had injuries during the campaign. But the Kiwis, like, they got to what I think was an excellent team by going into their depth. So by the end of an NRL season, you got players who are unavailable, and then you also need to get through 3 International Rugby League games. Like, if it's hard enough to be available after an NRL season, they play too many games. Like, just straight up, NRL season is too long. You could probably get away with 20 games, 20 regular season games. Like, that seems sensible because these dudes are genuinely smashing each other and smashing themselves, and it's a bit ridiculous. But if you get through the NRL season, then you need to survive one super duper intense game of International Rugby League. You get through that, and you got to do another one after the whole NRL season. So I think depth is the most important thing, and I don't think full strength lineups are realistic. Yes, you can fantasize about it, you can do your imaginations, you can do your Socrates philosophies and hypotheses, but it's not realistic because these teams are probably not going to be full strength. The thing is, that's great, because if Jerome Hughes is out injured, then we get Kieran Foran playing for the Kiwis. So it's like, and last year we had our Sean Johnson farewell. He was playing because Hughes was injured. Dylan Brown was injured. Which brings me to one of what I think is the most interesting sports question I can come up with right now. Don't even know if it's a question. It's just like a Socrates philosophy and hypothesis. I'm trying to do the singular, not the plural, because it's just one thing, and that is, who do you prefer? Who do you think's better? Who do you think had the better career? Whatever way you frame it, Sean Johnson versus Kieran Foran. I think that is one of the most interesting New Zealand sports ponderings I've had over the last few weeks, because there is like Sean Johnson has the highlights, Kieran Foran has the wins. but I don't think we saw them play together for the Kiwis very often. And I think they, like off the top of my head, I haven't gone back through every Kiwis game, but I feel like they had winning moments for the Kiwis separately. Because, again, it's very hard to play a lot of international rugby league when you're getting smashed in the NRL each week. So that's why when I throw up the number of tests played by these dudes, Kieran Foran 35, Joseph Tapine 26, James Fisher-Harris 21, and I think about Isaiah Papali'i playing a lot of Pacific Championship Rugby League and those type of observations, that's amazing because these dudes are available for international rugby league that much. It's really hard to play a lot of international rugby league when you're getting smashed in the NRL every week. But I am fascinated by the Kieran Foran versus Shaun Johnson. It's not a battle. It's not a competition. It's just an idea about who you prefer. Who do you think is the best? I don't know. Because again, Shaun Johnson has the highlights. Shaun Johnson is the cooler player. Like you go through a Kieran Foran highlights package, and it's like him getting smashed, but Kieran Foran's love for Aotearoa is undeniable. Kieran Foran's the way he inspired those players is undeniable. And when you think about NRL careers, Kieran Foran played a whole lot more finals footy. Kieran Foran won a championship, and they both had ups and downs. You know, Shaun Johnson had a few tough years around the same time that Kieran Foran was having a few tough years. So it's a fascinating kind of idea, but ultimately, because the Pacific Championships is what it is, we have been able to farewell Shaun Johnson and then Kieran Foran in consecutive years because you're not going to have a full strength team, because depth is so important, and the depth is on display in the fact that we can call up Shaun Johnson for a farewell tour because we need some halves. The depth is so good for Aotearoa that we can fall back on Kieran Foran because we're dealing with injuries. And that sums up the Pacific Championships for me, because we've had 2 years of that in back-to-back years. And it was just amazing to see Kieran Foran celebrated on that stage for Aotearoa. Because, it's one thing to celebrate Kieran Foran as an NRL player, but all these dudes love to play for Aotearoa, and some of them until they go play for Samoa and Tonga. But Kieran Foran, he was well within his right to pursue state of origin. He could have played for Australia. He could have done all sorts of different shit. And all Kieran Foran wanted to do was play for Aotearoa. And that is amazing. So I'm glad he got that farewell.
Yeah, I think it says something as well that the Kiwis, when they are stretched on depth in the halves these last 2 years, not only were they able to call up those guys, not only were they able to, integrate these guys, but also the fact that Shaun Johnson picks up the phone when he's otherwise, for all intents and purposes, retired due to injuries, effectively, at that point. It's like, yeah, I'll just add some extra, high intensity international league at the end of the season on top of that. I think with Kieran Foran, a little bit more like this was probably, it wasn't an unexpected call-up. I think he knew it was coming. I think he wanted that, was prepared for that all along. But still, the fact that he's adding that, like, no one would have begrudged him if he was just like, bro, look how long I've been playing in this league. I'm done. It hurts. I'm done. But no, he wants to he wants to have that farewell for the national team, and to to turn up and play very well within that team as well. Like, he was really good in this series, complementing like the flashiness of Dylan Brown, who was absolutely spectacular. But that's exactly what the role required, and that's That's what Kieran Foran did. It almost sounds like the Foran versus Johnson thing. Almost sounds a bit like the Ronaldo versus Messi thing back in the day, where it's like they represent two different sides of something. Where it's like it's not about it, like there's no right answer, and what you say maybe says more about yourself and the type of league fan that you are than what it says about those players, like because Kieran Foran has that the graft and the longevity and the played for more teams, had a bit more like postseason success and stuff like that. Maybe that's just if someone were to pick Foran in that thing, that reflects the type of qualities they look for when they're watching league, when they're following league, perhaps even playing league. Whereas Sean Johnson is the flashiness and the pizzazz and the X Factor stuff. Maybe if you pick that, that's him. That's like reflecting. That's what you're looking for in that kind of way. And I don't think there's a right answer. It's almost like a yin and a yang thing. And that surprises me that you say they didn't actually play that much together for the Kiwis. It feels like they would have, but it also, thinking about it, makes perfect sense that they wouldn't have. I mean, for starters, because there's an even better half of a similar era that overlapped for a while there. And they would have each played a fair bit with Benji Marshall for the Kiwis.
I don't know that as a fact. That was just like my hunch.
It seems like a fair hunch. I'll check the rugby league project in a sec and have a look. That might need to be an in-between call thing, but because that is interesting. Like it's how that who they would have each played for across long careers. But yeah, bottom line is that those are two outstanding servants of Kiwis rugby league, and the fact that in consecutive years we were able to kind of give them the send-offs that they were worthy of is pretty cool. It's another really rewarding aspect of international rugby league, which I think everyone is very, very high on at the moment. After what was, even though some of the scores, like some high-scoring games in these ones, there was a few big margins. A few of them was half to half with a couple of attempted comebacks in there. In terms of the Kiwis, they were very good at their comebacks and starting off slow and then coming back and winning as they hit that bench. Jesus Christ, talk about depth. But yeah, it was great. Loved the Pacific Championships. Had so much fun watching that stuff, and it sounds like that is a universal opinion at the moment.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't offer some reality. Like, it does need to be said. Samoa are 1-6 since the last World Cup. Tonga are 1-7. So I did see a few things like about the next year's World Cup, right? For Samoa and Tonga to win the next World Cup, they would need to go from 1-6 or 1-7 to winning the World Cup. That is completely
well. The White Ferns did it.
They did. That is completely possible. It's just crazy.
It's yes.
And I
maybe not the one to bet on.
I still maintain. I think this is less so the case for Tonga. I don't feel like Tonga are the cool team in Australia. I definitely think Samoa is the cool team in Australia. I'm not talking about Samoans, because obviously Samoans are going to love their team. I'm talking about the half Pākehā, half Palangi rugby league folk in Australia who love Samoa. They never think about Samoa as they've lost 5 games in a row. They're 1-6. And I just find that kind of crazy. Like, Samoa are far more hyped than Tonga. And they've won 1 game since the World Cup. Like, if Samoa had New Zealand's record, 6-3, and they were all this hype, it would be the biggest deal in this corner of the world, and it would be justified. It would be fantastic. They're 1-6. New Zealand has won 6 games since the last World Cup. Samoa and Tonga have combined for 2 wins. that I think my issue is how other people talk about Samoa. Not Samoans, but how other people talk about Samoa. And if you get into the nitty-gritty of how that Pacific Championship final unfolded, that is essentially Samoan turf. Because as I said last week, I think Australia is more Samoan. I think New Zealand is more Tongan. So what happened prior to the game? Samoa held their ground. The Kiwis, what basically happened is the Kiwis, I think they have usually done their haka second. Samoa was saying, no, you're going to do your haka first. And that's fine, that's all good. Like, realistically, we can't sit there all night. Someone's got to do their haka first. Like, let's be honest. And that's what Fisher Harris did. Like, he just took the lads back. Okay, we're going to do our haka first. That's all good. But the way, like, there's a lot of, like, booing the haka kind of chat. Like, who cares? Like, it's just it's just like it's just a sport, you know? We're just, like, we're doing the haka, but we're not going to war. And if we were going to war in some sort of ancient times, what would I be doing while the opposition are doing their haka? I'd be booing them.
Booing's probably the least of it, you know?
If we're going to go into a fight and we're going to kill each other, we're going to battle, maybe we're just going to put the punching gloves on, whatever it is. If we're in that serious moment, yes, I might even be doing crazier shit than booing the haka. But this is just
probably should be.
Yeah, like this is just
draw the line. We're going to kill each other, but no mean words. Don't use mean words.
But this is just sport. It's okay. The fans can do whatever they want, right? But Samoa made it very clear that that was their turf. And then you can see like how Junior Paulo, excuse my ignorance, I think we're dealing with the sippy towel. Just got to double confirm that. As you might understand, sippy towel is Tonga. So we got the sippy towel is the Samoan. The start of the Civitao, sorry. The start of the Civitao, you can tell, I don't know what Junior Paulo's saying, but you can tell by his actions and how he's interacting with the crowd. He's telling the fans, this is our turf. He's telling the fans, this is for you. It's a direct relationship between the Samoan players and the fans in the stands who are there to watch. And then you get into the game. Samoa are up and about. Samoa win the first exchanges. So all of that was... it's a lot of huff and puff for a team that's won one game, you know. Like, this sounds like I'm trying to antagonize. I'm not. It's just like that's just how it is. But it was a good challenge, and ultimately, the Kiwis just absorbed that challenge because this Kiwis team, as we've said over the last few weeks, I think they like being the bad guys. And how have the Kiwis responded? The Kiwis aren't advancing in their haka. And if you get into the nitty-gritty, every time Samoa does the Civitao, they're starting on the 30-meter line and they're pushing halfway. I think at Mount Smart Stadium, they went past halfway because, like, for some reason, Sky Sports, the New Zealand broadcaster, they still put camera people between the haka. And so all you end up with is like a camera shot of the players walking past the cameras. Do not do that. Somehow, Australian broadcasters are much better at filming the haka. It's different for the All Blacks because the All Blacks, they're quite passive. They're not advancing. But that's what the Kiwis did as well. And I kind of like the restraint because the Kiwis didn't go past the 40-meter line. They didn't even get close to halfway. They stay behind the red line, which is the 40-meter line at Eden Park against Tonga and in Australia. So that's like, to me, that all sums up like how the Kiwis responded to the Samoa standing their ground to do the Sevatau second. All of that stuff is fair play. That's just part of the contest. It's all good. But the way the Kiwis responded to that and dealt with it, and then responded to Samoa's hot start and dealt with it, sums up this Kiwis team, where I think they are very comfortable being the bad guy. I think they're calm, they're composed, they trust themselves and their ability. That's what makes them such a fun team. And that is a credit to Stacey Jones and the whole coaching staff, because I think you got Stephen Kearney involved. You got a lot of smart people in the mix building that Kiwis culture and environment. And if we think, okay, first battle they won was the eligibility battle for some players. Like the Kiwis they haven't lost like major eligibility battles this year. So that's a good start. It's a good reflection on the coaching staff. Tactically, against Samoa in the final especially, they let Tonga just go hard, but the Kiwis kept moving the footy. There were a lot of offloads in that opening stanza for the Kiwis that, like Tapane had an offload that got intercepted that led to a Samoan try early. And Kieran Foran, that interception came from him trying to shift the footy to the other side of the field. Those things happen throughout the game over and over again. At the start of the game, they didn't quite work. But if you add in players getting back around the ruck, like every time Joseph Tapane runs the footy, he's either running straight and bouncing off to a different defender and then offloading, or he's running across the face of 5 different defenders. All of that just works you over. And then Kinney's bouncing around. Keanu Kinney genuinely bumped off Junior Paulo. And then Junior Paulo got steamrolled by Aaron Clark, I think it was, or Nofahu White, yeah, whatever. But the Kiwis' tactics worked well because Samoa got tired. And Samoa couldn't keep up in the second half. And there's this thing, like, I could roll through every player and take a note, but I think one of my favorite things about watching this Kiwis team in the Pacific Championship was, so Xavier Willison, Aaron Clark, they rolled off the bench, and Nofahu White. So, like that helps build the fatigue. Because you've gone all out for 20 minutes, you're smashing each other, then Aaron Clark comes on. Nofahu White, Xavier Willison. So you got to keep doing it. Because that Kiwis forward pack is going to keep doing it. But then some point in the second half, Fisher, Harris, Leota, Tapane, they come back on. And I saw it against Tonga, saw it in the final against Samoa. They win with their defense. And there's these sets where, like, saw it in the last 2 games especially, halfway through the second half, when the opposition has the ball deep in their territory, the Kiwis just go up a gear and they start smashing the opposition to the point where Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is losing the tackle because he's got Fisher, Harris and Leota, the Bash Bros, all over him. Around that time, Britton Nikora, he's doing 100-meter sprints on the kick chase. He's doing crazy shit like that, and that's just like, that must be so like demoralizing. Where you're in the contest, you're tired, and then you start getting smashed even more than you did at the start of the game. And that's where I think the Kiwis have won these games, is with their defensive efforts. Because I haven't seen Fisher Harris line speed at the Warriors. But then for the Kiwis, knowing he's got Leota, like he just has to do less work. He's got Leota, he's got Tapane, he's got a whole lot of players who can run the ball for him and stuff like that. He can zone in that energy on line speed and smashing the opposition. And Fisher Harris actually had a few other plays. Like Fisher Harris was the dude who led the reaction to Samoa the haka situation at the start. Fisher Harris is the captain, so he drove that situation. Then we're talking about defense. There was one try where the Papali'i try, Fisher Harris gets the ball, he throws a 20-meter spiral pass to get the ball to Leota, then Papali'i. That's a reaction from Fisher Harris, who's a prop. Dylan Brown, where he jumps over Keanu Kinney and then he gets the ball to Nickel Clockstar, I think. That's Fisher Harris offloading. So in that one test, Fisher Harris showed a wide range of skills and efforts, but like Joseph Tapine was still better than him. Nofahu White was still ridiculous. Britta Nikora might not have had the footy too many times, but he was excellent without the footy. All these players, like Stacey Jones as coach, got the best out of all these players, and that's how you get the result that we got. And then you got someone like Phoenix Crossland, who had to tackle Payne Haas every time he got the ball. And that's not easy. But Phoenix Crossland kept doing it, kept getting a body on him. Then the troops come in to help him out. And it's like the Dylan Brown situation. This is the thing that I was looking for prior to the Pacific Championship, because Stacey Jones selected Asafa Solomona. He selected Dylan Brown from quirky, goofy NRL situations. And like, I would hope and expect that the Dylan Brown situation especially played out the way it did. Like, there's no surprise. There's no, oh, I wonder how Dylan Brown's going to perform. No, it's the Kiwis, right? We've got a few years of evidence that the players love playing for the Kiwis. We've got a few years of evidence that the players go to a different level when playing for the Kiwis. And now with Stacey Jones as coach, we've got a decent pocket of evidence where he can get the best out of the players regardless of what they did in the NRL, because as I've said, there's not a whole lot of crossover between the NRL and Pacific Championship Rugby League. And the whole thing, whether it's the eligibility, whether it's the tactics, building fatigue and working over the opposition, a lot of offloads, a lot of passing, defensive efforts, when they come about, how they come about, all that stuff. We've got eligibility, tactics, and getting the best out of the players. All of those were like 10 out of 10. So how can you say anything negative about the coach if like his main duties were all excellent? And that's where we finished the year for the Pacific Championships and Aotearoa Rugby League.
And just, it's so, I know this played a bit of a factor in Stacey Jones getting that job in the first place, probably a very, very significant factor. But it's just so clear that all the players just love him. Like they adore him as like a rugby league forebearer. You know, they respect him as one of the greats of Aotearoa Rugby League, but also you're not hearing grumbling about his coaching. You know, they're not hearing grumbling about his tactics or anything like that. They just seem to certainly not about the environment that he's created, the sort of culture he's got going in this team. Everyone just seems to want to be a part of that. So it's 2 thumbs up for Stacey Jones as Kiwis Rugby League coach, clearly.
Like Isaiah Papali'i, he's just a certified international rugby league player. But if you watch, like, if you're worried about the NRL, you're not thinking like Isaiah Papali'i, like he's one of the best players in the world. But he's going to play every single test for the Kiwis, and he's going to do a good job. And I think there's a lot of players now in that equation, which is only because the players are involved in creating the culture and the environment as well. So they deserve credit. But yeah, especially looking back to where we were with the end of the Michael Maguire regime. Like, well, this is all good.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Like the depth was tested a lot last year, and the Kiwis lost to Tonga by 1 point. They did lose to Australia. And obviously that matchup is kind of the matchup we need in International Rugby League right now. And even New Zealand versus England, because I went through and I did all the records for these teams since the World Cup. Australia is 8-1. England is 7-3. New Zealand 6-3. Samoa 1-6. Tonga 1-6. So England, they've won all their games against Samoa and Tonga. That's a little pocket where like the realism needs to be laid out. If Samoa and Tonga, because they went in consecutive years, 2023, 2024, I think it was first Tonga, then Samoa. If they went to England and they won against England, I'm not going to be saying a whole lot. But Samoa and Tonga lost every game against England. That's why they're 1-6. That's why they're 1-7. And so we've got England have won all their games against Samoa and Tonga. They lost all their games against Australia. New Zealand and England have not played in this period. And I don't know how those games would unfold, but that's just like the top 5 rugby league teams in the world. Tiers don't exist to me. As Biggie would say, tears don't affect me. Hit him with the tech G. My potency is deadly. International Rugby League tears don't affect me. There's no tears. Yes, of course, there's might be doing tears like, oh, this shit. No. That's, to me, that is, if England is tier 3 or New Zealand's tier 2 or Samoa's tier 1, tier 2, whatever it is, that doesn't have any relevancy to when you have two teams playing rugby league against each other. In fact, if you say, nah, Tonga's tier 3, that's kind of disrespectful to them. All these teams are just playing rugby league against each other. I don't care about tiers. I just want to see international rugby league games played, because we don't play a whole lot, and just do battle. See who wins. And I mean, credit to England, they are 7-3. They did win all their games before losing against Australia in the fake Ashes. And I don't know if New Zealand would beat England, but we'll have to wait and see, because that's the next thing, I guess. So who do you think is better, Kieran Foran or Sean Johnson?
In other words, based on my theory, which type, what do I admire most in the sport? I don't know. I might very marginally lean towards Kieran Foran at this point, but I also think that's clouded by the fact that like there's recency bias involved in that,
Yeah.
But he did have the longer career, and at the moment it's Kieran Foran's moment, so I kind of want to keep that going for him. But I did just quickly, while we're doing that, crunch the numbers on his halves partners, and where are we? 34 test matches for the Kiwis, at least according to Rugby League Project. I'm assuming they're all accurate. 8 games in which he didn't play in the halves at all. You remember, I think there was one where he was like a center on debut or something like that. But more recently, he's played as as the dummy half for a bit, and
there was a clip
couple times off the bench.
Last week maybe, where he made his debut at center.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's the only time he ever played center.
That's Kieran Foran. And it also, like, that's another example of how far New Zealand Rugby League has come, Kiwis specifically, because for so long, randoms were played in different positions, or good players were played out of position just because there wasn't the depth. There weren't the options available. Whereas now we're saying, okay, we got 2 halves out injured, we can select a half. Okay, we've got Brandon Smith. He's not injured, but Brandon Smith is unavailable.
Well,
Jeremy Marshall-King's injured. We can select someone who is a hooker. Whereas the old Kiwis, I mean, it's kind of amazing they won the odd test against Australia, because dudes were just playing in all sorts of random positions, and or the dudes who were playing were pretty random. But sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, like Dylan Brown may have played some centre for the Eels, but he's not going to have to play centre ever for the Kiwis. That's just not going to happen. However, he did 4 times start as the halves partner for Kieran Foran, so that puts him third on the list because there was one instance, Kieran Foran, Joey Manu, halves combination. That did happen once. But yeah, Dylan Brown 4 times playing alongside Kieran Foran. That was 3 games this year and must have been, I don't know, one last year or something like that. Benji Marshall 8 times, Sean Johnson 13 times. So Sean Johnson was Kieran Foran's most common halves partner. I will say almost all of that was like it was 2013 to 2017 kind of range. I think the 2013 World Cup they started a whole lot together. Didn't really get that over the back halves of their careers where they would both align to be fit and available at the same time. And at the start of his career, yeah, Kieran Foran did get like 8 games. It was like 8 games in a row from what in terms of his appearances. I don't know if the games that he missed in between, but alongside Benji Marshall, so plenty of that. I'm sure there were plenty of, I didn't look up Sean Johnson, but I'm sure he started with Benji Marshall a few times in there. What's interesting about that, I think, most of all, is just how like many it's how many, but it's also how few. It's like there's 4 or 5 half guys that have done the bulk of the things, but none of those like over the last whatever we're talking about for the span of Kieran Foran's career, probably close to 15 years. There's like 4 or 5 halves that dominate the starts, but also it's not like there's been one combination that's played 25 times during that span. Everything's been spread out, which is what you're saying before, right? It's just you get the best team that's available to you at that time. It's not going to be the same team every year. It's not going to be necessarily the best players every year, but it's always going to be a good team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I would love to see Jerome Hughes and Dylan Brown in the halves every year, but it's not going to happen because one of them is going to be unavailable. And when you think about the Warriors and what they're up to, in my Warriors videos, I've talked about there's 4 kind of NRL halves: Luke Metcalf, Harris Tavita, Tana Umaga Boyd, and Tamaita Martin. I think that is necessary.
Yeah. Even last season it was necessary, right?
Yeah. But I think you want to get some Breakers stuff off your chest. Like I've been fired up, hating on Cosgrove. I don't know what got into me. Like I want to be far more chill and like wholesome, just a bit more mindful. Probably need to get some vitamins into my system just to relax me and ground me. I'm sorry, Sam Cosgrove. I just don't know how good you are at football. Better than me, for sure. Got fired up about the Kiwis. No disrespect to Samoa or Tonga. Just think it's weird you've only won 1 game. But now you can get fired up about the Breakers.
Well, I'm trying not to get fired up about the Breakers because...
Well, you should, because they suck. And that way, like,
yeah,
wait. If you're not going to get fired up, let me get fired up. Because the Kiwis, everything we talked about there, coaching, culture, right? You've got clear indications that the culture, the coaching and the culture, solid. Really good, in fact. The indications for the Breakers aren't that way. And, sorry, I tried not to be fired up, and then I got fired up, and now we're just fired up, and we've got to keep rolling. There's so many different layers and indicators of the Breakers having that iffy kind of stuff. We've talked about the coaching, the tactics, and all sorts of stuff. But you've also got our favorite Kiwi basketballers just doing weird, goofy shit. The coach isn't getting the best out of the imports or the local lads. And we do need to say that because we do love our local lad Breakers. But they're doing some goofy shit as well.
Well, when you said before that the culture of the Kiwis is set in large part, the coach sets the table and the players kind of eat off it, right? Like the players also have to contribute to that strong culture and they are the drivers of it ultimately. Um, and that often tends to come from like your best players on down as well, because your best players just command the most respect. So what they do sets an example for everyone else in the team. A little bit different in international scene because it's kind of like everyone is your best player. It's a rep team. You're picking the best of the best. Um, but there are always guys who are more experienced and gonna just carry a little bit more mana within the group. But where does that get set from the Breakers, who all the chat has been, well, not all, well, yeah, most of the chat from certainly from us in the off season is how exciting it is to see the Kiwi Breakers back. But you also see them lining up to start games not only with three imports but also a next star who's effectively a fourth import. So it's like Sam Meninga, three Americans, and one Mexican in the starting lineup. That's not the Tall Blacks, that's not the if they're driving the culture, they're not driving the type of culture we've been talking about the Breakers trying to get back to. And in some areas, I think Kareem Lopez is awesome. I think when he plays, I don't know why they keep telling us every single game that he's on a minutes restriction, because it's like, just play your next star 20 minutes. No one would have noticed. It's not like they're only playing him 5 minutes. It's just let him do what he does, and the rest of the time we get Carlin Davison and no one's upset. But like, he's been good. He's been really effective, and he does good things. He fights for rebounds, and he tries to he puts his body on the line defensively. Not all the next stars, well, a lot of them aren't capable of doing that, and a lot of them just don't, because they're still learning, or maybe one or two cases through the years where they might have been a bit complacent about these things. But jury's out on the Americans. I've mentioned before how Brockington just seems like a little bit of a strange fellow to me, because the way he talks, he talks like he's a star player, and he's like really leading the way in this team, and it's like, well, your performances aren't really backing that up, buddy. Baker, I think, has been all right. He just doesn't play enough. He's started to get his minutes up a little bit more, but he's just been caught in the Petteri Koppinen thing of like, I don't know what the rotations are doing. I don't know why Carlin Davison only plays 11 minutes against Sydney, and other games he's playing 25, and rather see him playing closer to 25. But ultimately, especially in basketball, so much does just fall down upon your best player. And I think Parker Jackson Cartwright, much like maybe the Samoan and Tongan rugby league teams, seems a little bit immune to criticism. It's like it's just this established thing of he's the Breakers MVP candidate. He's the best player. He's the star. Like, well, actually, if you ask me to like vote an MVP for the team this season, it's Sam Meninga ahead of Parker Jackson Cartwright. But Parker Jackson Cartwright has, for the most part, been really good. But what is the thing right now that is holding the Breakers back more than anything? It's their fourth quarters. Whenever they're in these close fourth quarter games, they crumble every single time this year it has happened. The 3 games that they've won have been blowout wins. They haven't had to have close fourth quarters. They haven't got to that point where it's like games on the line. How are you going to get a bucket? What are your best plays? What's the who are you going to lean upon? What are you going to lean upon? What style of basketball here? Defensively against the Kings on the weekend, I thought they were pretty good. Can't really say whether they're defensively good or not against was it Adelaide, I think, on Thursday night, because it was irrelevant what they did defensively, because they went like 6 minutes into the fourth quarter without scoring a point, something like that. Only made a couple field goals, and they were right at the end. It was horrendous stuff there. But again, like, where does that come from? Well, probably Parker Jackson Cartwright shooting 1 of 7 in that fourth quarter with a couple of turnovers. Why did they also blow a lead after 3 quarters to lose against Sydney in what was otherwise an all right performance? Like, they would have been worthy of a win if they'd held on and closed it out. But of course they didn't close it out. Parker Jackson Cartwright comes in and shoots 1 of 4 and has 3 turnovers in that frame. He's the guy that the offense starts with. They don't really seem to have a very complicated plan. The ball doesn't go through a lot of hands in these moments. Most of it is just like Parker Jackson Cartwright, give him a ball screen, see what's going to happen. And he's too small. He's too small. He gets gobbled up by other defenders. Opposition teams know that they're going to lean on him, so they know to put their focus on him. If he had better 3-point shooters around him, perhaps that might be not such an issue, but he doesn't. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. And he has this tendency of being like, I think he not only is he like the guy they lean upon, I think he wants to be the guy they lean upon even more than he already is. And he's just forcing passes or dribbling into bigger bodies, losing the ball, getting these turnovers. And I don't know, no, it's just the amount of times I see when people are trying to diagnose what's wrong with the Breakers, it's always about the depth and they're not being good enough. It's like there's a couple of there's because the depth, of course, is the Kiwi players that they've signed. So I'm a little bit protective about that. But there's also, I will admit, don't know why Ruben Tarangi's getting big fourth quarter minutes in that Sydney game. Don't think that was a good matchup. Don't think that was the ideal use of a guy like that. And I don't think Rob Lowe's been very good. He's out injured at the moment. But it just doesn't feel like he's been anywhere near what he's capable of so far. But Leaf has been okay, give or take the fact that he seems to be absolutely shell shocked with his 3-point shot. Carlin Davison's been brilliant. Sam Menega's been outstanding. Like Max Darling's had some games where he's been pretty handy, games where he's not been used at all. Again, the Coppin and rotations are just a bit all over the show. Not seen a lot of Taylor Britt yet. I would like to see a bit more Taylor Britt, but also maybe he just he needs to do a little bit more in the sort of 5 minutes per game that he's getting at the moment. But just this, it's not. Well, it is almost like a free pass that Parker Jackson Cartwright gets because of the reputation. And this is his third year with the Breakers, and they've never had a winning record while he's been there. So I'm not really sure why. If you get especially if you're going to be a leader of a team, you got to cop some criticism. If you want to be the guy that makes all the plays in the fourth quarter and your team keeps losing in the fourth quarter all the time, you got to take some criticism. You're not immune to that stuff. He is an outstanding player and he has been one of their best this season, but he's also the main culprit for why they've been so bad in the fourth quarter, or at least maybe the second main culprit, because Coach Kopp might also have to, he might be number one on that list too.
Yeah, as I said about the Pacific champions, I do think depth is one of, if not the most important thing. But the Kiwis got the best out of their best players. Like somehow Tapane was playing even better than he usually does. Fisher Harris, Dylan Brown, like all these dudes were playing above and beyond some of their previous performances, and the Breakers, their best players aren't playing to the best of their ability. And when you factor in tactics, when you factor in the non-best players also not playing to the best of their ability, like all of this is coaching. All of this is falls back on the coach. And I mean, the two most damning things you've said about the Breakers is Koppinen's coaching record, which I don't know exactly, but I don't think he might have won like 5 games over the last year.
Yeah, I can check that quickly.
I've seen that note in your newsletter because he won heaps of games at the start, and then he hasn't won many games recently. But then the other damning thing is Parker Jackson Cartwright. He's not a winning player if the team doesn't win. Like, yes, he's fast. Yes, he's small. Does being small help you win basketball games? Does being likable to some folk help you win basketball games? Like, there is very little evidence to suggest that Parker Jackson Cartwright has been a winning player for the Breakers, but as you said, the perception of Parker Jackson Cartwright is he is one of the greatest breakers to ever exist, which is factually incorrect. And all the noise we've heard about Coach Koppinen is what a good coach he is. He was an NBA assistant coach even though he wasn't. Like, the propaganda is ridiculous.
Well, the propaganda came from him being hired by the previous establishment who were propaganda what's the word? Propaganda aficionados. Or maybe not even, because it wasn't even good propaganda. Like, you only had to scratch the surface to find the lies or the exaggerations. Let's say enthusiastically propaganda. Anyway, the Breakers 3-9 this season after a 7-3 start last year. To begin Coach Kopp's time, they went 3-16 the rest of the way, so that makes them 6-25 in their
Yeah.
last 31 games.
Great coaching. If
Yeah,
so, there's two things there. Like the coach is 6-20,
6-25
6
in the
and
last, yeah.
25 after the start of the season. Park Jackson Cartwright he's been a breaker with two different coaches.
3.
Three.
No, 2. Yeah, 2.
Two.
2 different coaches, 2 different owners, and none of them at the same time. There's 3 different pairings.
So 2 different coaches, 2 different owners, 3 seasons, no winning seasons in there. So your quote unquote best player and your coach don't seem that good at their jobs. That's
That's the case,
yeah.
you don't want to, you can't just be then blaming the fact that they're struggling on the guys sitting 8, 9, 10, 11 on the depth chart. It doesn't even get to them, whether they're playing well or not. It doesn't even get to them. Like the coach and the best player aren't playing winning basketball, aren't setting up winning basketball. A couple of your other starters maybe aren't playing very well either. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. That's the first thing that needs to be fixed if they're going to start winning some of these games more consistently. And it just makes me wonder, how long of a rope is Dylan Boucher leaving with this stuff? Is he willing to make a coaching change mid-season? He might just want to say, this is the first year of a new regime. We're going to ride it out, learn some lessons, come back better next time. Potentially. I think certainly he's going to have a more, a very, what's the word, a more understanding approach to the situation. I don't think he's going to make snap judgments. He's going to leave it a while. Otherwise, it might have already happened. It might have happened in the off season before the season even began. But it's feeling inevitable at this point. I don't know how long Kopp's contract is either. If this is the second year of his contract, there's absolutely no way you offer him another one. If he's got another year after this, maybe you have to start wondering about these things. But it's getting to the point where I don't really see that he's going to make this team better anytime soon. It certainly hasn't happened yet, and I'm struggling to see you've had enough evidence of the thing that this team is doing wrong, and they're still doing it wrong over and over again. So I wonder how quick Dylan Boucher would be to act on that, or whether that is in his considerations this season.
And he's also the bloke who signed Brockington and my mate Baker. Boucher does
and re-signed PJC.
Yeah.
So of course, yeah, he's not without you put this roster together with Koppinen's help. That is certainly not blameless. Especially when just a little quick aside from the rest of the NBL, Mojave King's popped up again. And he's gone back to Cairns and he scored 32 points the other day. Mojave King was pretty average for the Breakers last season. He wasn't very good. He was playing, before Coach Kopp, didn't have a great season. Since then, he had a spectacular New Zealand NBL, admittedly a lower standard, but still to see him, it just felt like he went to another level. Then he committed to the Tall Blacks. Then he went and played really well for the Tall Blacks. He's actually in the Tall Blacks squad to play Australia coming up later in this month, so he's hanging around there. It was one of those ones where at the time where they chose not to re-sign him, it made perfect sense. Why would you re-sign him at that point? And everything he's done since then has made him look like a player who actually the Breakers should have on their roster. They should have kept him. They weren't to know that he was just gonna, something was gonna click for him. But as it happens, as it's turned out, that now feels like a bit of a regret, because he is actually a pretty decent, he's a reliable second or third option scorer, which they don't have enough of at the moment, and he would actually fit this team really well. Plus a big body, good good athlete. Yeah, it's understandable how that happened, but it's also a shame how it happened, because from making the right decision, they've ended up with the wrong outcome.
Right, let's get back into the football. I do have a couple observations. The best players for Auckland FC in that derby were the Kiwis. Jesse Randall was amazing. And there's been a fantastic season for Jesse Randall. I think he's now in the all-white squad. There were a few updates to the all-white squad as we were recording.
Yep, he's replaced Callum McCallum.
But Callan Elliott isn't in the squad, I don't think.
No, James McGarry got the nod ahead of him, which I guess is saying that it's like a left back for left back, whereas Callan Elliott's a right back who could play left back. I'd have leant towards Elliott myself, especially because I've seen him play left back and do an all right enough job. And I think you're probably just going to let Francis de Vries play most of those minutes anyway. But so it goes. James McGarry's been in good form for Brisbane to start the season, so he's also worthy of a call-up.
But Callan Elliott was really good at right back for Auckland FC. And Franny de Vries, he set up both goals, I think. Whipping the ball down the left-hand side.
He started the move for both those goals. Randall got the assist, but de Vries set up Randall to set up Cosgrove.
For some reason in my mind, Randall scored all the goals, and that must be because I don't like Cosgrove.
I still think he did score the second goal.
I'm going to just assume that it was Franny de Vries passing to Randall. Randall scores the goals. Randall is an amazing footballer, so shout out to him. But I thought those were the three best players for Auckland FC. And, I don't think anyone else was really that good for Auckland FC. And the whole 2 red cards playing with 9 men, that is right up Auckland FC's alley. They loved it. And it's like one of those situations where as we watched them play with 9 players, I was like, I don't think the red cards are hurting them. Because we have seen Auckland FC's defense be so well organized, so disciplined. Like Callan Elliott, I think he blocked a shot with his head. He flicked it over the goal. Before the goal is going over the back line, he is celebrating. And that just tells me they know the importance of every little defensive moment. And that's how you be an awesome defensive team. But I did love the fact that de Vries set up both goals. Elliott was good at right back. And obviously Randall's come out of nowhere to be an amazing football player. And then my Wellington Phoenix things, the thing I kept thinking about for the Wellington Phoenix, you did a passionate defense of the high defensive line.
I've done a couple of those now, yeah.
In the newsletter yesterday. I don't care about the high defensive line stuff, but it was just it was a tricky spot for Juan Loke to be in. But again, thinking back to last year's derbies, the whole defensive line for the Wellington Phoenix are young dudes. And yes, there were a few mishaps that led to goals. Part of that is, Franny de Vries is actually quite good at soccer, and he is very good at passing the ball with his left foot. Because you've talked about his crossing before. Those passes down the sideline weren't crosses. Same thing.
Might as well have been.
Yeah, he's not crossing it. He's not going across field. He's going straight down the field, whipping it in behind Loke. So it's yes, it was you get into the nitty gritty in your paragraphs talking about the defensive line and stuff like that. It was unfortunate for Loke, but the Wellington defense was pretty solid. They didn't have to do much when Auckland had the 9 players, but those dudes are all young. If you got a young defensive unit like that doing all right, I don't even know how you can be mad at the Wellington Phoenix and their performances, because I just love watching those dudes. Even Loke, yes, he had a few mishaps, but he is pure class at right back. And Kelly Heald on the left, Sheridan and Hughes, I feel like they went up a level after last year's derby. So I still love that defensive unit for the Wellington Phoenix. And as I was reading your thoughts about the derby in our newsletter, I also you wrote about Alex Rufer and what he was doing with the Wellington Phoenix when they did have the two-man advantage, and I think I am Alex Rufer's best fan outside of his whānau. But as I was reading your paragraph, I was like, I just had visions in my mind of Alex Rufer just passing the ball and the Wellington Phoenix going nowhere. And I think it was like the thing that I love about Alex Rufer's passing, because the best thing about his game is his like defensive nous, his positioning, his craft in the center of the midfield. But the thing I love most about his passing is he gets the ball and he moves it to the other side of the field. That is the best. That is best in the middle of the field. Like when you're in your own half, when you're around the halfway circle, you get the ball, you move it to the other side of the field where there's a lot of space. I don't think that is as effective when you're getting the ball on the edge of the box and you're pulling the strings, and like, because you did right, like you want to get the ball to the wide players as early as possible, so the concept is the same, right? But I just don't think it is as useful doing that deep in the opposition territory. Like, you just got to
No, not at all.
a little bit of razzle dazzle, a little bit of a straight ball here, a diagonal ball there, then whip it out to the sideline. It's a weird thing that I'm trying to explain, where the strength that I love about Alex Rufer, he was kind of doing the same shit further up the field, but it was useless. And it's like you're just passing the ball around Auckland's defensive unit. And there was no, like, Wellington had some chances, they had some rebounds, they had some shots. Like, if they took one of those chances, we're thinking a lot more positively about how they finished the game. But I don't feel like they did a lot to actually break down Auckland's defense with 9 players. And if you're playing against Auckland and Auckland get a red card, maybe they get 2, maybe they get 3, you still have to do heaps of work to break down their defense, because they're so well organized, because they're so physical, and especially if they're bringing on Nando Zen-Painika off the bench to be part of that defensive unit.
Yeah, when Dan Hall gets sent off, they're not just going to play with 3 defenders. They're going to bring on Nando Painika, which is exactly what they did as soon as they possibly could after the red card. On comes Painika, takes Hall's spot, and then they just play out the game with that. Like, the defense doesn't change. They just sacrifice. It was Cosgrove who went off, right? So they sacrifice a player from further up. And I actually thought the first red card was kind of, you can't say a red card is good for a team, but you sort of alluded to this as well. Like, it kind of suited them where that game was at that point, because it gave them an excuse to just defend. It gave them an excuse to do the thing that they're best at. It's just like, get numbers in the box, keep that compact back four, Luva Strata sweeping in front of them, you know. And that is also exactly why what is sometimes a really good, Rufer likes that diagonal ball over the top of the defensive line. He plays it a lot, and it's often really handy. Like, if you're hitting Easy E running onto one of those with a bit of space, perfect. Even if he's one-on-one, even if he's not free, he's probably going to hold off that guy. He's got a good touch, might bring the ball down and make something happen, or at the very least, you've asked the defense to do some actual defending to like break out of their shape. If you're playing against a defense that's just sitting back and guarding the penalty area, though, it's a waste of time, because all you're doing is lobbing headers for Painika and Gerwood Reich to send back your way. But that's what he kept doing. And it wasn't just that he was lobbing the ball into those dumb areas. It was also like, if they're deep and compact, where's the space? That's always what you're trying to think as a midfielder in football. Is where's the space? How can I get the ball into that space? That's where something's likely to happen. The space was out wide. It was Amienso and it was Luke Brooks-Smith. And those guys are awesome, especially at running at guys. If you can get them the ball while they're still one-on-one, they might make something happen. Amienso has a rocket of a shot. I didn't realize this about him when they signed him, but you've seen it over the last month. He just rips his attempts. You know, even if that's straight at the goalkeeper, that's hard to save, and he's probably not going to hold it, and then you might get a rebound off the back of that or something like that. But you got to get him into space to be able to use it, and that didn't happen because Rufer's got to take 3 touches and then slowly catch a breath and then move it out there. It's like, you don't. you have that time on the ball because no one's pressuring you at all because they've taken off the guy who would have been pressuring you in that situation. So, but you still have to keep the tempo up in order to break down a team like that who is in the lowest of low blocks. It's very hard to shake them out of that, but you do that by stretching them, by moving them from side to side and things like this. But you have to do it quickly, or else they can just move and shape like a rugby league defense team might. If you shift the ball too slow, they just slide. Nothing happens. You slide back the other way. Nothing happens. Um,
Yeah, you like the thing you need Aaron Clark running straight. You need Keanu
yeah,
Kinney running straight behind the ruck. There was none of that for the Wellington Phoenix in that final stage, unless it was Corbin Piper
he
who
tried. Yeah,
he tried respectfully. He did like I think they kind of overblew. Like yes, he did change the game, but like all game changes, he didn't actually change the game. He changed the nature of the game, but Corbin Piper didn't like
well, he came on at 2-1 down, and the game ended at 2-1 down. So
exactly. And it's like, yeah, yes, he's physical, robust. I love Corbin Piper. He's probably my favorite footballer aside from Zidane ever. But
Jesus. Obviously higher than Sam Cosgrove on that list, but yeah.
for,
I mean, we got Marcus Stamenic and Chris Wood
yeah,
and Libby
yeah.
Kache as well,
But
Joe Bell.
that's how much I love Corbin Piper. Yes, he might just do the same shit as Cosgrove, but he's more likable. He's from Aotearoa.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into the intricacies of my hypocritical ideas.
Well, Zidane was known to get a bit niggly from time to time, so
Well, he only did it once. Like he literally had one moment of insanity, and like other than that, he was just a sublime person.
I
But
don't think that was his only red card, but it was definitely the one where
well,
it's
yeah,
like,
of course, if you're
I
playing,
think,
you're going to get red
yeah.
card. That's all right. But
Anyway,
yeah, sorry, but if like Corbin Piper isn't going to, well, he did for the first red card, but if Auckland's defending with their low block, Corbin Piper's not doing like some Keanu Kinney polish. Yes, he's going to run hard like Aaron Clark, but he doesn't have that kind of the silky skill or the pizzazz, the razzle dazzle to create something or to have a magical touch to beat two defenders with his touch and then set up the goal. So who's doing that for the Phoenix? No one was doing it. So that's when you go sideways. And it's like Corbin Piper did alter the contest, but I don't think he actually, in the end, he didn't really help the Wellington Phoenix score a goal, which was his job. Like in that role, his job is to score a goal or to set up a goal, create a chance. And he did it at the start against 11 players as the contest developed into Auckland's defense being the star of the show. I don't think Corbin Piper is the player to then break down such a staunch defense. And as you're saying, that's when Wellington Phoenix just went a bit sideways.
yeah, I always feel like when you're playing against a low block like that, one of the best things you can do is just like take a shot, like get those long shots going, fizz a few in, because you're probably not going to score from them. But if you're going to stand and block the goal, I'm going to kick the ball hard at you and see if you move out of the way. That's part of it. But also the amount of times like those shots might not fly into the top corner, but you might catch a deflection and they dribble in the middle of the goal. Or you might hit a guy and it bounces to a striker somewhere else. Or you might catch a hand and get a penalty for a dodgy handball. That happens as well. I almost wonder because that's not a coincidence. Corbin Piper's best moment came before, he came in winning the red card. I'm just trying to watch that back. It was, I think it's Nadjarine who, oh yeah, of course, and there were all the little the brouhaha straight afterwards. Forgot about that after the red card. But like Piper gets fouled, it's an obvious foul. It's a red card. Fair enough. I see what Hall's trying to do. Maybe argument of whether Piper might have handballed it earlier, whatever. But the ball kind of like, as everyone's focused on, is this going to be a red card? The ball like dribbles across to Nadjarine on the edge of the box and he kicks it straight at Michael Veld. I don't know if the whistle had already gone at that point. I don't have the sound on the video to see that, but I almost like, they're better off in that situation if he kicks their ball past, if he scores that goal and they don't concede a red card versus getting the red card. And it's just, it made it easier for Auckland to defend their lead. And I think, and conversely, that's just not what the Phoenix are good at doing, is breaking a team down like that. I think they prefer more space to run into, want to draw you forward and then hit you behind. You can't do that against a team like Auckland FC when they've got their mind set on hanging back. The point you made about Elliott as well with the goal line clearance, and I love seeing teams that enjoy defending. I love it when they celebrate defensive moments. Obviously, you're not going to celebrate it as much as you celebrate a goal. You're not going to block a shot on the line and then rip your shirt off and swirl it around your head and go knee slide to the corner flag or anything like that. But
you could.
I guess you could. It's worth the goal in some cases. It's the same thing. You might want to.
Nando
but at least,
just gone because
yeah,
you had a clip of
he gets to celebrate goals as well.
Callum McCower doing his years, he's perfected his knee slide because he scores so many goals. Nando Pinnaker, king of the block shots. Finn Sermon, king of the block shots and clearances.
Sermon for
in
sure.
the MLS, those dudes need to be knee sliding after a really solid tackle.
Well, that's the logical next step. I would love to see it, but at the very least, your goalkeeper makes a great save, pick him up and pat him on the back. High fives and congratulations and that kind of stuff. You got to celebrate those moments, and the teams that do that, I feel like, are the best defensive teams because they understand the importance of those moments. They understand the contribution, the amount of little contributions that add up to earn a clean sheet or a 1-goal victory when you're hanging on like that, and it shows a level of passion and dedication to the craft, and there's certainly a craft to be able to do what Auckland FC did. We're talking about a low block. That makes it sound like they're not doing anything. Incredibly proactive within that block. They're winning all their battles. They're getting up. They're getting all those headers, winning the second balls and stuff like that. That is an intense workload to do that stuff. And yeah, it is. Among all the other things we could say about that derby game, that was the defining aspect of it, was the way that Auckland played with 9 men to hold on. It was incredible stuff. All
of that's the same as the Kiwis. The Kiwis
Absolutely,
were proactive with their line speed, proactive with their kick chase and defensive effort. So it's like Auckland FC, the Kiwis, very successful this weekend based on funky defensive system. Do you have any more thoughts about All Whites in relation to the derby, but also some of the selections have happened? We've had Elijah Just scored a nifty goal, not a Joe Bell banger, but very, very nifty finish for Joe Bell, for Elijah Just. And of course, we've got guys like Randall entering the All Whites mix. And of course, Tommy Smith, big selection in the All Whites squad as well. That's Tommy Smith with an eye.
Gotta have the Prince of the Mana in there. He's just, but they never pick him straight up. They keep adding him to the squad now. It used to be just he had an automatic spot in the team, even though he kind of never played. But he genuinely, this isn't, I'm not saying this is a piss take. I mean, genuinely, he is an important part of their wider culture. He's an important, he's a great leader. Big presence in the team. Sure. Batesy loves him. But he stopped picking him. But then there's always this thing that happens a week after. This is why I try not to write my All Whites previews straight after the squad is named, because it's 3 guys are going to get injured on the weekend before, in their last games before joining up. And that actually didn't happen this time because 4 guys got injured. So no Kikache, missed Wrexham's most recent game with a little injury. Alex Paulson's had a bit of an injury scare. It sounds like it's not too bad, just a knock to his knee, but he's not going to go on this tour, which opens the door back up for Max Crocombe, which is just a seesaw battle at the moment, apparently, between those two. But it also opens up the door potentially for Kate Sims' debut, because he's no longer the 3rd-choice goalkeeper. He's now the 2nd-choice goalkeeper in the squad. Ryan Thomas has been dealing with a hip injury that sort of came because he rushed back after playing a bunch of international games recently, tried to play every game also for his club, and then had an injury and missed. He did come back and play on the weekend, but he played with painkillers, so it's you need painkillers to get through your club game, and you have a history of injuries. Don't play All Whites. Absolutely stay home. Rest up, bro. We don't need you for these games. So importantly, they're friendly games. And on top of, oh, who's the other one? Callum McCowart as well. Scored a goal for Silk Boy and then got subbed off at halftime, which I wondered if that was tactical because they were kind of getting thrashed, and his goal was such an against the play goal that his own coach said afterwards that it was a steal that they got that goal. And the fact they were winning at halftime was an act of thievery, according to the coach who was winning it at halftime. They ended up drawing that game 1-1. So I wondered if that was tactical. Sounds like it was an injury base. So no McCowart, no Kakache. No Thomas, no, who's the other one I just said? No Paulson, no Chris Wood, who was already injured, no Tim Payne, who was already injured. Arguably, that's 6 of your 11 starters missing for what are going to be the toughest fixtures of the Darren Baisley era against Colombia, against Ecuador, two teams that were excellent through South American World Cup qualifying. Ecuador just had an insane record. A lot of 0-0 draws within that, though. So maybe that might be get some of that Auckland FC fizz going there and get a couple red cards in the second half and sit back with 9 men and soak it up. There was a weird instance as well in the National League this week where the Phoenix women's reserves were playing against Eastern Suburbs. Bit of a different situation. Eastern Suburbs weren't 2-1 up against the Phoenix team, but they were actually 6-0 up. But as they were 6-0 up, they were like, sweet as, we've got this game in the bag, we can make a bunch of subs. And then Ruby Nathan and Kenya Brook both got injured. So they had to play like the last 15 minutes with 9 players against the Wellington Phoenix women's reserves a day after the Wellington Phoenix men's A-League team had to play against 9 players. The difference is that the Phoenix women's reserves actually scored a goal against 9 players. So shout out to Poppy O'Brien. It was a fantastic goal as well. I clipped it and chucked it up on our stuff. But yeah, if you're looking for the All Whites replicating that Ivory Coast win against a South American opponent, I don't know that we've ever beaten a team from South America before. Whenever I think about us playing against South America, it reminds me of the time we played against Brazil in 2006. And I actually found it's like a 480 pixel version of it, but I found the replay of that game somewhere. So I kind of want to watch that at some point. I might, when there's this slow news week, I might watch that and do something in for the newsletter or something like that way down the line. But yeah, don't maybe be focusing on the results coming up to these games because we're not very good against South American teams at the best of times. Here we've got 6 starting players unavailable, but that does create some good opportunities for others as they push towards what is really the bigger picture as World Cup next year. And guys like Jesse Randall, James McGarry's been called up. Owen Parker-Price has gotten a recall in the absence of Ryan Thomas. Nick Sanev is coming to be the new third choice goalkeeper. And of course, Tommy Smith's not even replacing anyone. They just added him to the squad. They're like, we're going to add some other players. We might as well add Tommy Smith as well. Why not? So, good opportunities for a few extra guys who might not ordinarily start. Francis de Vries is going to benefit from this in the absence of Kakache again. No Chris Wood means that you're going to get a bit more of a spotlight on Costa Barbarosas, Ben Waine, Andre De Jong, even though I don't really think De Jong is a striker. I think he's more of a number 10 behind that. It's always you don't get a lot of games in international football, so it's very valuable if you're a player who would normally just be getting a few minutes off the bench or just working hard at training. Like that's still something. You've still got an opportunity to to build up momentum for your case with those minutes and those training sessions. But to be able to start a game and I don't know, maybe score a goal against Colombia or something like that, that's massive stuff. Like Jesse Randall does something like that, for example. Perhaps we start thinking about actually, maybe he should be in a first choice 23-man squad, big opportunities for guys like that. And yeah, I would have liked to see Callan Elliott get in there on the back of his A-League Derby performance too, because I thought he was spectacular there. But I am very glad that Randall's there because I had the feeling that it was just it was 3 pretty good games from him to start the A-League. Pretty good. That's not going to get you in the All Whites, even though he was sort of trending towards that. But as soon as that Derby performance comes in, I'm like, well, man, if they pick the squad now, I have a feeling he'd have been in there. But he gets the reprieve because of the injury to Callum McCowart. So he is in there after the Derby game after all. So it worked out for him in the, not the long run. It worked out for him in the wait 1 week and see what happens run.
I don't want to hear your summary of the Wellington Phoenix women under coach Beverly Priestman, formerly the Drone Lady. I want to know your opinion.
Ooh.
What is your opinion of their first up draw against Canberra? Are you feeling better, worse, excited, disappointed? What are your opinions and feelings about the first game for the Wellington Phoenix under their new coach?
I think my opinion falls pretty close to what I heard a couple of the players say afterwards, which is that like it was okay, but they're capable of better. I kind of expected better and more from them in that. Don't love the CJ Bott in midfield thing, but we'll see how that goes because there's certainly it's not the like she's played there before, not a lot, but I have seen her play in midfield before, and there is potential to like transform her in that right back to defensive midfield kind of, that shift which, for example, Rhea Percival made very successfully at a similar time in her career. I think Percival a bit more of a technical player, so a bit easier for the passing sense of that. But then I don't know, CJ Bott is a world-class tackler, so and with a huge work ethic, huge work rate, so it could work. But also playing alongside Tessel Medag is another like defensively minded midfielder. I'm not sure they quite had the balance, and I kind of like them a little bit more when after Bott went off and Grace Jale started playing there as a midfielder who can drive forward and create a few things. But yeah, they left a bit on the table there. Sabitra Bandari had a couple chances she wasn't able to take. They probably didn't create as much on the whole as they should have. And I think something that CJ Bott said afterwards, that, well, at least alluded to, I think is probably true in that she would know better than I. She was playing in the game. But that maybe the occasion was a bit of a shadow on the team, like the fact that they were playing in the stadium first game before the derby as well. Like there was a lot of focus on that, and not a whole lot of focus on the women's team, which I didn't love the way that they kind of thought. It's nice to have the double header there, but maybe for the first game of the season, they needed something else to ease in with it, like a more the more welcoming confines of Parua Park to ease in under a new coach and with a new system, a few new players and whatever. So it wasn't a great performance, but they did get a draw out of it, and they played okay enough to show to show that they are capable of being a lot better than what that was. And there's one or two players to come back in. If they can get Macy Fraser sort of locked in and fit, and I think there's a lot she could offer to this team. Again, same as the CJ Bott in midfield thing. Don't really know about the Alyssa Wynnum at right wing back idea. That was a little bit of a strange one. I guess it's a way to get her on the wing and maybe an attacking role. I mean, we're seeing Jackie Hand playing games at wing back for the Football Ferns, so it's not too unique at the moment. But yeah, Lucia Leon in that position is much more of a natural, and she missed this game through injury as well. So there's a lot more to come from the Phoenix team, and they didn't show a lot of it in week one. And I'm interested in how the fact that Bev Preston came in and made a few like curious coaching decisions with players playing in different positions and whatever, in the different formations of last season and all this. You need a lot more than one game to get an idea of a coach like that, but I'm curious on how that's going to track too.
I have watched Alyssa Wynnum play a few seasons now for the Wellington Phoenix women, and I just don't think of her as like a first 11 player. I don't feel as strongly about Cosgrove or about Wynnum as I do Cosgrove. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't say it because she's from Aotearoa. But my visions of Alyssa Wynnum playing soccer are turning the football over. And I think she just always turns the ball over. I don't think she can really hold the ball. She does some good things, but I just don't think I've seen her play well for the Wellington Phoenix women. And I've also curious, like Bev Priestman as coach, a few times she has said, she's talking about the change in mentality from the Phoenix team. kind of going from an underdog to a big dog. And like Bev Priestman saying, like, we used to like changing the mentality from going out and hunting the other team to now we are the hunted, and you're not the hunted. No one is scared of the Wellington Phoenix woman. The Wellington Phoenix,
not until you win some games.
They are not the big dogs. Like Priestman might have a coaching record as a big dog, but dear Beverly Priestman, no one is scared of you. No one is scared of your Wellington Phoenix woman. To be honest, as you've told us a few times now, the Wellington Phoenix women haven't made the finals. You know, so like, I don't know. Yes, you might want the mentality to change, but you need to win some games. Like that's how the mentality changes. And that sounds like a bit like Samoa and Tonga. Like they have been able to change the mentality maybe from being like I think the word I was looking for before was like patronizing. Like Samoa tried hard. Well done. So no, we're here to win games. Like Samoa should be competing at a very high level against all these teams, as should Tonga. To be honest, they should win a few of these games because they all have players from the NRL, just like the other teams do. And it's like the Wellington Phoenix woman. I don't know. Yes, you might want the mentality to change, but I think you're still hunting and you haven't found any food. So you're still hungry. So if you're hungry, you should probably act like you're hungry, act like you're starving, be desperate to win, desperate to hunt down the opposition, do your best Ramsey Snow, Ramsey Bolton, despicable, terrible, disgusting hunting trips that he does. That guy's a demon. Holy cow. But yeah, I was kind of curious to hear Priestman talking like as if the Wellington Phoenix women are big dogs of the A-League. Now we're the hunted. Now everyone's out to get us, and like maybe just win a couple of games and try and make finals footy first. Like, because I admire the desire to change the mentality, but no one's scared of the Wellington Phoenix woman. And meanwhile, Zoe McMeekin, she just goes to the Melbourne Victory, scores goal in her first game, and there's a lot of really good Aotearoa Wahine playing in the A-League, as we will discuss over the course of the season. This is just a bit of a disgustingly Ramsey Bolton-sized podcast because we had some big ticket items. But as we move through the summer, we will be putting the spotlight on the females in the A-League because there's a lot. Obviously, we've got men doing great stuff in the A-League as well, but we need to get a bit of cricket in. Unless you disagreed with my thoughts about the Wellington Phoenix woman?
No, I did agree with that. I completely agree with that because it's like you can't have the reputation for being the big dog until you earn it. That's not something that you can just claim by reputation. But I think maybe Bev Priestman has, she has the reputation of coaching top dog type teams, and maybe also has the reputation or the how do I say this? She has the self perspective of being a big dog, if that makes that's how she maybe views her identity as the coach of these types of teams. Most coaches who have coached those types of teams, that's how they, you don't get a lot of coaches that go from up and then back down. Ange Postecoglou isn't going to go and coach like the Phoenix Reserves or anything like that, right? He wants another job in the Premier League. You move your way up and then you try to stay at that kind of level. So that was always going to be an interesting thing with Priestman kind of being forced down to a lower level from being an Olympic champion to like now you're coaching a team that's never made the finals in the A-League. And yeah, that's all part of the journey of what we're going to learn from how she manages this Wellington Phoenix team, because there is that aspect too of like, are you, and I don't know I don't know anywhere near enough about Bev Priestman to know whether this is like, I'm not leaning into anything, but I'm just saying like, are you humble enough to accept that drop in kind of capacity? Are you realistic enough to recognize that your players in this team can't do the things that your players in the previous team did? Those types of things, that's all part of the journey too. I did think Alyssa Winham played all right at right wing back, particularly when she was on attack. But yeah, she's always been a player who feels like an 8 out of 10 player who gives 6 out of 10 performances. You know, like there's just that it's that last little bit that she and it's pretty obvious to watch. Like that's just the final product. It's getting the goals and the assists, especially the shooting. She's a very unselfish player and sometimes passes when everyone else is expecting her to shoot, which ends up just being a turnover. Because the other player isn't expecting the ball either. They're waiting for the follow up or whatever. They're getting ready to celebrate, and then you make an extra unnecessary pass. And maybe is a player who could like she certainly has the capacity to have a breakthrough season for a team like the Phoenix if they do start to win. I think playing in a better team at a higher tempo, bit more confidence, bit more time spent on attack would certainly suit the way that she plays. But yeah, that just wraps it back around to the start of the split, which is like you're not that until you earn that. Yeah, you got to win those games before you want teams to take you seriously like that. And they didn't win at the first attempt, and at home against a relatively vulnerable Canberra team, like a game that in mid-season form they should be winning that if they want to be the team they're claiming to be. They didn't win that to start winning some games.
Right. Let's get into cricket. So Jacob Duffy he's the big dude. He is the big dog for the Blackcaps right now for me. He's the best player for the Blackcaps in this T20 phase. He's tied for Ish Sodhi for the most wickets against the West Indies. They both have 6 wickets. Ish Sodhi 6 wickets, average of 12.6. I do think this is still one of the best years of Ish Sodhi's bowling career in T20 International, so that deserves to be mentioned because he was dropped, came back into the team, and now he's doing pretty well in the West Indies series so far. But Jacob Duffy is the best player with bat and ball for the Blackcaps. You could make a case for Santner because obviously he is smashing the ball everywhere with the bat and he is bowling tidy stuff. So shout out to Mitch Santner. But I do love just putting Jacob Duffy and Josh Clarkson in the same discussion because Josh Clarkson is the leading wicket taker in Ford Trophy, 16 wickets, average of 8.7, 3.5 RPO. He's the only bowler with more than 10 wickets. And of the 10 or 11, 10 bowlers have taken at least 7 wickets. Josh Clarkson is the only one below 4 RPO. And it's pretty funky for Josh Clarkson because he is I think we talked about this last week on the bonus podcast. I am curious about what Josh Clarkson can do after this hot start to the Ford Trophy. He's got at least 3 wickets in all 4 games so far, which is pretty damn impressive. But he wasn't a dominant force for New Zealand A with the ball this year. He played both tours, and like the tour of South Africa, he bowled in 5 innings and he took 1 wicket. So when you list out his wickets, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 5, 4, 3, 4. It's like, whoa. But obviously bowling in Aotearoa might do that. That might be useful. But he's played on a few different grounds. He's played at Pukekura Park. He's played in Auckland. And he might have played in Dunedin maybe. He's been around Aotearoa. But he's also, he's been doing this for a while. He's got a very good one-day bowling record, averaging 24.9 in 50 innings of one-day bowling. And he's, I don't know how fast he's bowling. Probably some deliveries look 125, some deliveries look 135. So he's around there.
Is he running on his toes, though?
I think he's running on his toes, which is the most important thing, and that's why he has taken lots of wickets. So 4 games of Ford Trophy have been played, and I think Josh Clarkson is the best player. As we said on Thursday, maybe Henry Nicholls has a case because he's hit a couple of centuries, but Josh Clarkson has done something amazing in all 4 games so far. CD are 3-1, Canterbury are 3-1, Wellington are 3-1. They're the best teams in Ford Trophy right now. And another thing we said on Thursday in our bonus podcast, which will again talk a lot about Ford Trophy because we have games being played on Wednesday. Josh Clarkson is 28 years old. And the beautiful thing about Blackcaps cricket and the Blackcaps development pipeline is the youngsters are really good. The certified Blackcaps keep getting better. And the older, mature players in domestic cricket continue to improve as well, as we've seen with Jacob Duffy. And there is every reason to, like, the evidence of the Blackcaps development pipeline tells me, informs me that we should keep an open mind about what Josh Clarkson can do this summer and moving forward. If he can continue to take wickets and score the odd runs, like he averages over 25 with the bat in all three formats, and he's a very powerful batter. He's got a T20 strike rate of 142. He's got centuries in first class and list A batting, and he is the best player for me in the Ford Trophy right now based on his bowling. So that's good stuff for Josh Clarkson. What else is... oh, no, I've got something here for you. So Josh Clarkson averages 8 with the ball in Ford Trophy. There is one
I think it
batter.
actually went up after the last round, eh?
Oh, it was still 8-ish, I think.
What were his figures? It was like he got like 3 for 30 or something.
Yeah, but I think it was 8 last time we talked.
Yeah, but it's no. Well, I forget exactly. I just remember looking at that and being like, that's a wicket every 10 runs. That's gonna take it's gonna take his average from like 8.0 to 8.2 or something like that.
Well, you're trying to work out cricket averages on the fly. Like, well, that's a ridiculous. That is.
Well, 30 divided by 3 is not hard to do, but I'm not going to go any deeper in the 8 point whatevers. I'm going to be adding decimal points.
For some folks, it is easy to do. For others, it is very difficult. Like, you can't. Yeah, whatever. But there's one batter for the Blackcaps in T20 international batting who has played
43 actually. But yeah,
he has scored at least 50 runs. Who is also averaging 8 with the bat this year. So we got Josh Clarkson averaging 8 with the ball in Ford Trophy cricket. And there is one New Zealand T20 international batter who has scored 50 plus runs this year, who is also averaging 8 with the bat. Who is that?
So a batter who bats as if they're facing Josh Clarkson every single delivery. I don't know. Who is that? It seems like we've got a few, like Mark Chapman found some good form with the beginnings. Devon Conway, I think, might have had a 50 in one of these recent games. 50 runs, isn't it? Yeah, Jimmy Neesham. It's Jimmy Neesham, isn't it?
It's the one and only Jimmy Neesham. Somehow Jimmy Neesham sucks at batting. But he's really good at bowling. He's averaging 14.6 with the ball. He's got an excellent strike rate. So that is the Jimmy Neesham T20 package this year, is elite wicket-taking bowling and terrible batting. Against the West Indies, he's batted twice. He's got 13 runs at a strike rate of 87. This year, he's got a strike rate of 103. None of that is Jimmy Neesham, but it is Jimmy Neesham. Because, I remember talking about Jimmy Neesham as the Mr. Strike Rate because his batting strike rate was fantastic. His bowling strike rate was fantastic. Now, he's just a bowler. He's not Mr. Strike Rate. He's just Mr. Bowler. Good stuff there. You mentioned Devon Conway. He is the only dude with 100 plus runs this year in T20 international batting who has a strike rate below 135, and it's 129. Could have said 130, but he's 129.4, so I moved the bar up a bit just out of respect to Devon Conway, but he is still crawling along with his T20 runs right now. none of which feels really good enough to like fight off Finn Allen or Glenn Phillips in the T20 team. But he did score a knock, so shout out to him. I'll do this for the listener as well. So let's just take a moment, close your eyes. Imagine some cricket. Nothing better. Kyle Jamieson is bowling the ball. What direction does the ball move in your mind's eye?
Hoop and in-swinger to a right-hander.
I like how quickly you said that. Because that is the vision I have as well. There has been moments, though, in recent years where I've seen Kyle Jamieson move the ball both ways. He has bowled the outswinger a few times to the right-hander over the last 2 years. But then against the West Indies, now I've seen him just bowl that massive hoopy-doopy in-swinger more. And because we joked about this on Thursday, how Zach Folks has been described as Trent Boltish. But these three dudes, Zach Folks, Will O'Rourke, and Kyle Jamieson, they all move the ball into right-handers and away from lefties. Will O'Rourke does it at 145 k's per hour. And smashes hands. Kyle Jamieson does it from the top of the Sky Tower. Zach Folks does it with a very quirky bowling action. I don't know why, but I love it. And that is the thing about the Blackcaps kind of depth that we've talked a lot about, is it's not just like there's, okay, we've got another good batter. Because you look at Reece Murray, okay, we've got another good batter on the rise. But Reece Murray, like the only dudes I think of who are better sweepers than Reece Murray are Kane Williamson, Tom Latham, Daryl Mitchell.
First three names that came to my head as well. So
there we go. It's been a bit of a grind this podcast, but we are on the same wavelength at the end. Reece Murray, like yes, he's the next best batter, but he does it in his own unique, special way. Because for every conventional sweep that he smokes to the boundary, he's also going to try a reverse sweep. We've got three bowlers there who are like Jacob Duffy, outswing, Matt Henry, seam. Throw some other bowlers at me. Let me look at the list. Jimmy Neesham hits the deck. Adam Milne, conventional. Oh, him and Lockie Ferguson have moved the ball into right-handers. They bowl fast, but we've got three bowlers. So why isn't Kyle Jamieson Trent Boltish? I don't know. But we have three bowlers who all have ridiculous movement into right-handers and away from left-handers, and they all have ridiculous styles of bowling, as I just described. Okay, who's another young batter on the rise? A depth batter, Tim Robinson. What have we seen him do? Sixes over cover, sixes over point. Incredible drives. Like you could go through all the young players in New Zealand and like just the skill sets that they have is crazy. And I was reminded about that because we did talk about Zach Folks and the Trent Bolt comparison. Then we expanded it out to Will O'Rourke. Those are our two young seamers who both do the opposite of what the majority of right-handers do. And then I watched Kyle Jamieson bowl those massive hoopy-doopy in-swingers. And I'm like, oh yeah, he does that as well. But Kyle Jamieson, I think his style is more, I can bowl outswing, I can bowl in-swing. And that's pretty ridiculous for him to do as well. Although Kyle Jamieson, T20 bowling this year, solid. 10 wickets, averaging 31, 9.5 RPO. He is the most expensive bowler for the Blackcaps who have taken a decent amount of wickets. He's the only one with 10 plus wickets over 9 RPO. But I was curious what the instant reaction to imagining Kyle Jamieson bowling would be for yourself and the listener. And I still think it is that massive hooping in-swinger, which is a unique skill set. But we've got two other dudes who have the same skill set in our bowling department. However, the best bowler for the T20 team right now bowls conventional outswing, and the best bowler in Ford Trophy is basically the prototypical Kiwi seamer, because he probably bowls 132 k's per hour outswing, moving it away from the right-handers. That's just a little snapshot into the seaming landscape.
Yeah, the vision of Kyle Jamieson bowling does go a little bit further as well. It's the hoop and in swinger, but then it's also like beating the bat, either taking out middle stump or maybe catching that front peg in an LBW. Lovely to see him back doing that stuff and playing relatively consistently at the moment. T20 still doesn't really feel like it feels like a clear distant third best of his formats, at least at a Blackcaps level, but he's sneakily bowled. It wasn't even that sneaky, really. He bowled a couple of really good death overs in the last couple of games against the West Indies too, which that feels like a big development. Like that, if he can do that, then suddenly, actually, no, this dude certainly does have a place in a T20 World Cup squad if he's capable of restricting teams at the very death, because it feels like that's been a weakness for the Blackcaps for a while, and they're always been a team that can take wickets up front, but not necessarily to clean it up at the very end. But I think if Kyle Jamieson's doing that, sweet as, because I think Zach Fox certainly has the abilities to be a very good death bowler. You've got a slow ball, you can probably do that job all right, because guys are slugging you just half the time that's going up in the air. Jimmy Neesham in the past has done that because he also has a pretty decent slow ball. Like the Will O'Rourke, I think we've seen try it a little bit, a little less successfully, and he hasn't played as much T20 stuff. But and frankly, like Matt Henry, Jacob Duffy are just good whenever they bowl. So that's not like there's options there. There's some nice stuff there brewing. And what could be a pretty handy side in this format moving forward. It's maybe not been the one that the ODI record is amazing at the moment for the Blackcaps. T20 is a bit less so, but there's the makings of a very good team built around these guys that have just like unique skill sets.
The other hot pocket in Kiwi cricket right now between Blackcaps and Ford Trophy is the wicket keeping. I still think like Devon Conway's wicket keeping is part-timey, and Mitch Hay, I did notice like it just looked better with Mitch Hay behind the stumps, but Mitch Hay isn't really doing enough with the bat in T20 internationals right now to warrant the selection. And if he's in the middle order, it changes basically the dynamic of the team, because the best Blackcaps T20 team has Tim Seifert opening the batting as the wicketkeeper. And I think that is the recipe they want to have. The other wicket-keeping options, Finn Allen at a stretch, Devon Conway at a stretch, both opening batters. So the other dude, Mitch Hay, for him to be in the team, he has to play in the middle order. And that does seem to like shake up how they want to build their team. And Mitch Hay hasn't really scored enough runs. I think he's only batted maybe once in the series, but he is averaging 9 with a strike rate of 102 this year in T20 internationals. I still think he's like, there's enough other positive signs. Like he can smash boundaries. He's got a T20 career strike rate of 140. He's got an ODI strike rate over 100. So there is plenty of room for Hay to settle into a regular flow. Meanwhile, in the Ford Trophy, Max Chu had his first 50-plus score of the season, and last year was the best Ford Trophy season of his career. So he's followed it up with another decent start, averaging 34.7 with the bat so far, and he is 7th for runs in Ford Trophy. I really don't think there's a lot of difference between Mitch Hay and Max Chu. Statistically, there's like some of Hay's stats are way better than Max Chu, but then some of them are far more close together. So overall, and watching Max Chu bat, you're just watching him smoke boundaries. So overall, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference, but I also have always mentioned Ben Pomare as well with Northern Districts. He is someone who I believe will soon join Max Chu and Mitch Hay as the contenders for the next wicket-keeping kind of jobs across the formats. And Ben Pomare has also been pretty solid, averaging 27.5 in the Ford Trophy so far. He is actually the third best batter for ND right now, and he's getting a bigger role. So Max Chu has been batting 4 or 5 for Otago. Ben Pomare has been batting 3, 4, 5 this season as well in the Ford Trophy. I think Callum McLaughlin had a decent score for Wellington recently. You've got Dane Cleaver for CD, Cameron Fletcher for Auckland, and someone who has to keep wicket, I can't remember off the top of my head, for Canterbury. But Mitch Hay, Max Chu, Ben Pomare, the future of the Blackcaps wicket-keeping job is in good hands. I'm just curious which one of them stands up over the next few weeks across the formats. And that is our podcast for this week. We appreciate your eyeballs and eardrums. Have a good time. Love yourself. Kia kaha, stay beautiful. Chur chur.